Of course, it's not working for some reason. OBS. Got a technical difficulty, guys. Give me just a second. Did I not plug it in right? There we go. Should be able to do it like that. There we go. Now we're live. Sorry about that, y'all. Camera decided to not listen whatsoever.
Hey,
anyway,
just like we were talking,
yeah,
team adversity with everything we do.
Yeah,
so.
Everybody's like, "Oh man, when things don't run smooth," I'm like, "Nah, it makes me giggle, man."
It's normal. It makes for a better story.
I mean, look at this tank. If you could see, I know you can't see it on this side, but when you do, this dude's huge. So what did he end up scoring anyway? Just
175 and 7/8. So
oh my goodness,
just round her up to 176, and
there you go, yeah.
So,
dude, that's a tank, bud.
Yeah, that's what I was. I was
beautiful.
Snapchatting and sending pictures to all my buddies. I was like, "Oh, I just killed a 150-inch deer," and they're like, "Fisher, that's a gross deer." And I'm like, "No, like don't fool yourself. Don't get my hopes up." And Dad measured him out twice, and everybody's like, "I told you, I'm terrible about underjudging my deer. Like solid 15 inches. I'm like, 140 and 160. Yeah, it's just like
no, that dude's. We'll get to him in a bit. That dude's a freak. No, so today we're going to be talking about mentors. Sorry to get off sidetrack there, guys. But today we're going to be talking about mentors and everything that they teach us. And everything about this podcast is always supposed to be about, what can we put in our hunting tool belt to help the next person.
Absolutely.
I do a lot of public land. We were talking about that earlier. I do a lot of public land hunting where in my off season, I guess I call it off season. It's not really an off season, but before that, ended October, going into November. I do a lot of that. You never know what you're going to walk into. It's just fun. It's fun to get out on a public land. Plus, it keeps you off your main farms that you're hunting, and I just think it helps with that whole process. And going out there into those public land places, a lot of times, you meet different people. You meet all kinds of people. I've met people from all over the country out here in Missouri because it's definitely a destination people.
And that's the cool thing about like you and a bunch of other guys we know is like, you guys were doing that before the hunting public, networking. And I mean, like a couple of years ago, I had the same thing. I wandered to a close piece to my work and I was like, I'm just going to get some after work hunts. I saw the dude's name on a tree stand. I shot him a text. I was like, "Hey buddy, like I'm out here." And he's like, "Oh, I've seen this real nice 8. Of course, everybody else and their dad hunted this early season on a bean field, like whatever. But, it's just that whole networking thing. Like everybody's trying to tear one another down.
It does. It seems like, you get out to, and I'm not sitting there saying that like, don't go out in public hunt.
Exactly.
If you're just getting into hunting, you're doing that thing, dude come out
we all
because
pay
there's
for
people
it.
like me and you.
Taxes, I mean, the whole nine.
Yes, exactly. I mean, and honestly, it's like there is a lot of people like me and you that come out there, and even my buddy Chad was saying the same thing last time he was on the show about a month and a half ago. He was saying the same thing, dude. I literally let a guy hunt in my stand. I told him exactly which way they were going to be coming from. And I went on down the way. He's like, I let him hunt in my stand.
Solid.
Because he wasn't that, he didn't know much of what he was doing.
Absolutely.
And he's like, and I was more happy that he was just out there trying to do it. And he was just open to suggestion. He was like,
good vibes out.
He's like, we both killed deer that night. He shot his first buck ever. And it was a nice buck. He's like, I was a little like, oh, well, shoot. He's like, but that dude's face was so like, he was in awe. And he goes, then I had somebody help me pack out the 2 does that I shot. It was
Absolutely.
great. He's like, but that's what I want to see on public land, dude. I want to see more of that. And because there's a lot of people that are coming to the public land. And I think that that's something we need to, as hunters that are experienced, we don't need to take that as, oh, they're in my spot. We need to take that as in, how can I help that person so that we can all make spots and make this public land easier and better to hunt? When you tell somebody who's new, hey, man, you don't want to walk in from the north, because you got a good, north wind coming down from the northwest and it's pushing everything out there before you get there. They don't know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they've never done that. And then now they're going, okay, so they didn't ruin your hunt or theirs. That's why I like the whole community of what this has to offer.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's what I've noticed. You've got some solid dudes out there.
There's tons of them.
You really do.
There's tons of them. And it's like, dude, just talk. We're a bunch of good old country boys, dude. And gals. Sorry, not trying to disclude y'all. But, bunch of good old country boys and gals. We want to see that. Like, that's what we want. We want efficiency. I'd rather hunt with 40 guys on a 20 or 2,000 acre area and know that every one of them respect each other's boundaries and know where they're at and are willing to work with each other than have 20 guys upset about, oh, that person's in my spot or that. There is no spots. Like, just get out there, early bird gets the worm type of deal. That's how that works. And,
so you've got guys, that go duck hunting. They're sleeping at the gate at 2:00 in
yeah.
the morning.
Oh, turkey season's the worst about it out here for public land.
Yeah,
I've seen guys, 2 in the morning. You're like, what are you doing? But it's like, I want it to be that way. I want to see trucks out there. A lot of people were like, man, I don't want to see that many hunters. It takes away from my experience. I'm like, that's one, that's selfish, and two, like, it don't do you no good.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're just honest with them and you teach them something, one, they're gonna like, every time they see your vehicle, they're gonna respect that vehicle and not even go in there because they're like, oh, that's that dude that helped me that one time.
Yes, and that's gonna outweigh everything going to the future.
Or you're that guy that they're like, man, that dude walked in and didn't even care that I was hunting here and just kept on walking by and told me to, go somewhere. All right, I'm going to pull my truck in right behind him and I'm going to go in there. You know what I mean? Like, that's who you're going to get on the other side of that. And that's crazy to me. It's like, dude, there's so much public land out here.
And it all boils down to the old rule we were taught, since we were, treat others how you want to be treated.
Yep.
But I mean, exactly. I forget it's 2022, and that's not cool anymore.
Dude, it's not. It's like everybody's kind of out for themselves. It seems, and this is the one community where we can be like that, where everybody's just connected. And my wife, when she went down to this show with us, that Missouri, I think it was the Murray Show Me Bucks. I think it was what we was at last time. They, my wife's like, that whole community's so cool. I'm like, yeah, they're just a bunch of good old boys, dude. Like there is no politics in what we do. It's just, let's go out there and hunt, man. Yeah, and if we kill something great,
everybody's racks.
It was amazing, and she got into that, and she's like, I never thought I'd be like, I would have fun at an event like that. I'm like, dude, it's free food, it's fun, you get to hold 200-inch racks, like that's pretty freaking cool, Yeah,
like, you hear about the 200-inch deer that got away.
Yeah. Well, then I had about a 180-incher. I was telling Steven earlier that he most definitely did get away twice. One was at like 64, and the other one he crossed the road in front of me, which, in that CRV, he about got it. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh,
good shooting.
It wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have been upset if he'd have hit my car, type of deal. Like, it would have been, oh man, $500 deductible.
Hey, insurance man.
It would have been worth it. That deer is huge. He's a stud. But I'm hoping he makes it through. I haven't seen. I think I got one picture of him. I haven't quite confirmed it yet. So I'm getting ready to put out different minerals, switching different, stuff up. And I think I'm going to put in a horizontal scrape. A buddy of mine does a lot of them up in Iowa. And he's been having like insane success on. He said he's had more success on the horizontals than he's actually had on the mineral sites, so which is kind of hardcore when you think about
absolutely. I incorporated those rope scrapes this year, and I've got 4 or 5 of them out.
Are they working pretty good?
Well, so far, I mean, I am super jacked.
We're still super early. I mean, and like as terrible as it is, like, we have the summer, fall, and winter homes for these bucks and does. I mean, actually, I don't know. The does on my farm, I predominantly think they stay there most of the year. I feel like I see the same does almost because, I don't know if that's accurate, but
I would say so.
Just because of patterns, I think they're the same sets, and you can tell by how young they are.
Yeah, and I mean, in that 500-acre tract between you and your neighbors, or if you're fortunate enough, you've got so much diversity in there. A doe group.
Well, that farm too, like, it's kind of odd because there's 3 good sized patches. It's 130 acres, something like that. But it's mostly ag. And there's probably, I don't know, I'd say 50 to 60 of it in woods. But they're not spread thin. They're just big patches.
And I think a lot of people,
perfect.
Dude, I'm telling you,
I think a lot of them have a creek running through them. So it's like,
yes, like
the first time I sat there, I was like 130. Oh man, 104. Like, they kept getting, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insane.
Fun all day long.
It was so fun. It's so fun. How many acres you guys got down there?
It is, Dad and a bunch of guys, they lease about, I think it's 365.
That's
and
a
then
lot.
with my family farm and a couple other tracts around there that I can hunt, it's just shy of 500.
Oh, nice.
So I'm really fortunate enough to have some good quality farms. But it's like, it's like anything else. Some of them.
Well, you got Corey, 19.
Yeah.
Like, literally, episode 2, man, 19 acres of shooting deer.
You've got people in there arrowhead hunting. You got people trespassing, mushroom hunting, this, that, and the other. Like a guy there in town, he told me, he's like, how do you kill big deer? I was like, what do you mean? Like, you go hunt. He's like, dude, I see somebody down there all the time.
Down
I'm
at
like,
that
I
property?
know. Yeah. I was like, I guess it's just public access, is what they think, which, is fine because I've got my spots. I've got that farm dialed in like the back of my hand, and I'm fortunate enough. I mean, yeah, I probably have been spoon fed by my mentor.
By your mentors.
Yeah, but that's
which is like that's if you're learning from a mentor and they do the right thing, you'll be killing bigger bucks than them in no time.
See, absolutely, and that's kind of where like
I'm your dad's probably seeing you shoot some of these deer, and he's like, dude, I did it right. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
And my dad, like, we're super tight after I pulled my head out of my butt years ago, like after teenage years and stuff. And he told me, he said, buddy, I'm so proud of you. He's like, I've never seen a booner on the hoof other than maybe 20 years ago. Cause dad had some prime hunting back in the day. Like, just like all our families did. And, that's what he was saying. And just like my Uncle Wayne, he's been my dad's best friend since before I even thought of. So he just adopted me as his nephew basically. And I call him my uncle. Like those two guys, like, both of them are absolute killers.
Yeah, yeah. No,
like,
I seen pictures you sent me the other day, and I'm like, man, his wall's getting full, dude. He's gonna need another house.
Literally, like
that's awesome.
It's just like that's how both of their bucks are. Like they're all good looking. They were just tag teaming back and forth together, bouncing ideas off each other. And then I just grew up watching that, and I killed my first really good. I think it was 143-inch deer when I graduated high school, and I kind of got back serious into hunting and stuff. And just ever since then, like the ball started rolling.
Yeah,
and I mean, and that's the thing.
Well, once you get that bone in your hands, even at 120, 130, I tell our guys that too. Just because you're shooting an 80-inch deer, whatever. Yeah. If you shoot that 80-inch deer, dude, just climb from there. Set your standard, dude. Just and if you're comfortable at shooting 130, 140-inch deer for the next 10 years, cool. If that's where you want to be,
well, and that's what I've got. One of my best friends in the entire world, Anthony Kuntz. Like, dude, is solid as the gold. The morning I shot this deer. It was about 8:30 or whatever. Hadn't seen a single deer. I'm up on this ridge top, and it is like iron woods and just thick as crap, And I'm just like, man, this is dumb. I'm not seeing anything. I was like, bro, I'm going to go grab my mobile set out of the back of the truck, and I'm going to, come around on the back door of this. The wind's going to switch out of the east. I was like, I'm going to go set up on the stand and bean field down here. And he's like, all right, man, sounds like a good deal. Boom, boom, boom. Text Dad. Dad and Wayne are hunting together on the lease ground that morning. Dad's like, you sit there and you hunt that till the wind changes. Look up, 9:30 in the morning. See that split two
over on the side.
And I'm like, oh. Now here he comes. I look up, and here's a couple does and a fawn coming down the ridge. And I'm like, they're going to meet right here. So I lay that old 7 mag up there, and
that's all she wrote.
Dude, I'm telling you. And it's like you sit there and
I've got a buck that actually has that same split.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was a deadhead I found this last year turkey hunting. Almost identical to that. I'll have to show you that here in a minute. It's kind of weird. It's literally real close to that. Like real close to that. Big, thick, heavy.
See, isn't that crazy? Like, I don't know. I mean, we're probably, 70, 75 miles apart.
Probably, yeah.
I'd say,
roughly.
something like that. It's just amazing, like we were talking earlier, how genetics carry over. And even, almost 100 miles apart,
I've seen, like, and it's oddly, like I've hunted in different states even.
Mm-hmm.
Like my uncle, I see deer from his area, and he's Michigan, and they're more shorter tine and just, heavy deer.
See, and that's the beautiful thing is
here we get
is one farm, they're just like that deer, real short, heavy, and just massive. And then another one, they're real wide and pencily. And I'm just like, literally have the best of both worlds.
I was lucky enough. I'm lucky enough to hunt that farm that I get to hunt. And I've been taught a lot actually through public land with a buddy of mine named Chad, and probably my favorite hunter to hunt with, easily, hands down. I mean, he does stuff that like you wouldn't even think could be dumb.
To him.
Dude, he's a beast. Like if you want to go on just an awesome hunt, like go with Chad. There you will never have a bad time hunting with him. My buddy from Washington's like, dude, that guy was the funnest I've ever hunted with in my life, and he lives in Washington State, so he gets to hunt elk, grouse, all of them.
See, that's everything. What I've always said is like, do the guys out west, do they just salivate over sitting in a tree stand in the middle of November, or like?
Honestly, like my buddy Ben thinks it's the weirdest thing ever what we do here.
He's
like, this is dude. No,
he's there from daylight to dark. What?
Like, this is odd, and I'm like, what do you mean it's odd? And he's like, this just is odd to me. I said, what? Yeah, so what's so different about what you do? And he's like, dude, we're walking miles.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, you got to think, when I go out my back door, I have 300,000 public land acres.
Oh, for sure.
You know, when I took him up to Deer Ridge, which is like probably, I think it's like 7,800 or 8,000 or something like that acres. I was like, dude, it's so big, you know, and he's like, dude, this is hilarious.
I'll walk the property boundaries on this thing. Like,
and he does, you know, I got him the first year he came out. He actually should have shot a nice buck that first year. We had a good one. I mean, probably 130-inch public land buck. I mean, 20, 30 yards.
for him.
Oh, it'd have been awesome. And we were trying that shoot through mesh. Wasn't so shoot through. Let's put it that way. It's pretty hilarious. That deer ducked that thing like it was hilarious. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. My buddy's like, "Did I get him?" And that deer was just standing there. I'm like, "No, like
he's laughing
you
at
need
us.
to load another one right now." They ended up spooking him or whatever. But no, the second year he came out, we hunted. I can't remember that, but I think it was Deer Ridge for the most part. And then we did hunt a couple other private land spots that I'd had from friends. And, but yeah, we got kill some does and stuff like that. And he's a meat eater. He's like, they get one deer, doesn't matter what type, other than I think Columbia whitetails. I don't think they can shoot Columbia whitetails there in Washington. I think they're protected or something. They get one deer. Unlike us, when I told him to come up here, he's like, how much is the tags? And I told him, he's like, oh, they're, I think $265 or something like that. And you get $2. And he's like, what?
Are you sure?
Like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, you get $2 with that one. And he goes, well, what if I want does? I was like, well, get your buck tags, and then you can order a doe tag for like $60 or $65 or whatever it is. He's like, well, how many of those can I have? I'm like, you can shoot, I think, as many of those as you want or whatever. Like, you're not gonna have enough time to shoot that many.
Yeah,
he ended up shooting 3 does this last time he was out here. He had a ball, but he went with Chad. He got to muzzleloader hunt, so he came in late season, so he got to muzzleloader hunt, which was fun. And then he got to bow hunt with me for like a week and a half.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh, it was a ball. We had a blast. But he wants me to come out with some buddies and do some big game hunting out there. And you talk about some friends. He had a friend named Tyler, which pretty cool dude. He's a beast in the West Coast. And he hunts a lot of Roosevelts out there. Roosevelt elk. His buddy from Kentucky shot one at 7 yards.
Holy
on
cow.
the ground, bro. Came through the I couldn't even see him.
I couldn't even imagine.
Until it was 7 yards breathing heavy in front of him, and he front chest shot him. And I'm like, man, that's intense. Because he could have ran right at you. You know what I mean?
Oh, my gosh.
And you're in that terrain. It's like, he goes, yeah, it's a little different hunting out there than it is here. You know, we're sitting here eating Nutter Butters and waiting for 160 inch to walk.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
hear that grunt
different.
coming at you. Yeah. Holy smokes.
Yeah. So eventually I want to get myself to be able to get out there. I was hoping to this year, but the economy the way it is and gas, it's I've got to dial down back to what I want to do. But I'm definitely going to hit Michigan. We were talking about putting the dream team together, which is kind of a sneak peek you guys are going to get on this show today. But we're going to put together 4. Steven here is going to be he's going to be one of the guys in the dream team this year, which we're going to be doing some competitions, and we're going to have a little sponsors that'll pay for that stuff for us, which would be great. It's going to be awesome. But if I can get you to come up to you, I'd like you to come up to Michigan with us, because Michigan's going to be fun. Bucks and the Muck are up there. Michigan's, I've got friends and family that are up there in Southern. They're going to kind of help us, figure out where we need to go. And but no, it's
so I've got a bunch of family just south of, I guess just north of Board up in Coldwater. Actually,
that's where my family's from. Is Coldwater.
We'll have to.
Seriously?
Yeah.
My Uncle Tom. That's literally the town. Coldwater is my. That's
Dude,
literally
awesome.
where I used to spend my summers up there. That's
that's
Coldwater. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
That's so odd. That is so odd. Seriously, that's where my aunt lives. Literally right outside of right out of town.
Right. And you said, we both already know, kind of, I mean, it's not the big back Mecca by no means, but I feel like you go up there and shoot a doe. Just have camp meat and have a blast.
My uncle shot 164 up there.
Holy cow.
In that area. He shot 2 good bucks out of there last year, but he's really pedigreed his land. He's really done great management.
Absolutely.
He's put the work in.
And it's not the UP. I mean, that is a long way. So it's probably two totally different worlds versus northern Michigan.
Well, I mean, just the doe to buck ratio up there is insane. Like you drive around the block up there. When I was a kid, my uncle would be like, "Hey, you want to go drive around the block and look for deer?" And I was like, "Oh, heck yeah, We'd drive around the block, dude. We'd see. I'm not kidding. We'd probably see 200-300 deer an evening.
Holy cow!
Like just going,
You don't even see. You don't even see that here anymore.
But you might only see, you might see a group of 30-40 does.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean, and see maybe 1 or 2 bucks in there if you were lucky. You know what I mean? And that's just what I remember growing up. I didn't do it a lot with him during that season, but it was kind of wild to see, just a different diversity from up there to here. Buck to doe ratio. I think a lot of private land farmers us together, we've kind of taken in that whole, get some of them does off there and cycle it out.
Yes, most definitely.
That's become such a bigger movement, and I think with the way buck genetics have been going the last 5-10 years, you're seeing deer come out of counties that didn't exist in those counties at that point. My buddy shot in Ozark County one that was 21 inches wide last year. I mean, and like that's down in where they don't even get big.
Yeah,
like I mean, it's like
you're far. If you were to farm, it'd be farming rocks. Like
yeah, exactly, yeah. And he was actually supposed to come and gun hunt with me that week.
Mm-hmm.
And we both shot deer on the same day and the same morning, about 15 minutes apart from each other. I sent him a picture. I was like, man, it's going to be slow running for me this week for gun season. And he's like, yeah, me too. And I was like, oh,
yes.
And he took like 2 weeks off to go hunt with me, and we didn't even.
Did he still come?
Oh
up
yeah,
and have a doe hunt.
Yeah, we just doe hunted, and we went and took our bows out, and we did a crossbow hunt together. It was fun. We did ghillie suits.
That's an absolute blast.
Have you ever done that?
No. When all the pressure's off,
dude.
and that's how I treat turkey hunting. Like deer, I am like got the blinders on, I'm running and gunning, like we're doing this, and like turkey season, it's like, hey, come over, like stress free, like let's have a ball. That is literally the blast.
Turkeys are, honestly, in my opinion, I think turkeys are my favorite to hunt.
Man,
I mean, it's hard to beat that gobbler, that shark in the woods.
It really is,
because he's hollering at you, and you're like, okay, where is he? And then he's 100 yards out, and he sounds like he's 50 yards out, and then when he hits 50 yards and he hits you again because he's been quiet walking to you, you're like, oh man, that's real close.
I'm all in or all out. Like if it doesn't happen by 8 o'clock,
yep,
I'm going to Casey's and getting some breakfast. Yep. Like we're rolling.
I'm a firm believer, and if you're not in it, you're not in it. I really am, because I've missed opportunities doing that. Like I've had a few bucks. This guy here, that was a public land buck. I probably would have got him mounted if he wouldn't have broke some stuff off when he hit a tree hard, and like he was way deep down in there, and it snapped off one of his, which I could have had it redone and whatnot, but I was like, nah, I'm just gonna keep it the way it is. Maybe one day I'll mount him just to have it done. If I don't shoot a deer that year, I'll just have him fixed and put up. But
absolutely,
he's my backdoor deer right now. That one's just kind of sitting there waiting. But he did that same thing, like if I wasn't in it that morning, and I was like, if I don't go somewhere else, then I'm gonna be sitting here wasting my time. And you have the patience thing. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a lot of deer killed from 10 to 2.
I'm telling you.
A lot of deer killed from 10 to 2, and that's, like, probably one of the biggest misguided things in the hunting world. But at the same time, you can hunt stands that are good for parts of the day. Mm-hmm. From 10 to 2, they're probably going to be cruising a ridge close to a creek or something in that area where they're bedding down, chewing cud for a while, then getting back up and kind of feeding on acorns.
And that's what I would always kind of do as a younger kid, I think I was about 11. Whenever I could take my hunter safety course, kind of dad kind of kicked me out of the nest. He's like, you can start hunting by yourself. You know what's what. And that's the deal. I would sit till, 11 o'clock. I'd get down, take my dinner with me, go sit in another stand. Like that's, just kind of do that little shift, but you're still out there in that 10 to 2 period. And
I think 10 to 2 is so important.
Absolutely. I think, probably the last two, if not 3 bucks that I killed have been,
from 10 to 2.
Yeah,
from 10 to 2.
Yeah, that 12 to 1 o'clock period in there, like it's just like something like, hey, let's get up.
Well, what time was his? I mean, you said he was about to get up anyway.
9:30, quarter to 10, I think. So it was getting there.
Cruising a ridge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if I'm 100% confident that I heard that buck bed down, but I just couldn't see him.
Yeah,
because I was on top, and he was down in. Just kind of doing his thing, setting up for the wind.
I figured that out last year. This year, okay, so I really want to get into this. How do I explain it? I want to do backside of the lake property core ground. I want to go landlocked this year. I want to do some landlocked hunting because I've heard it's so much fun. And don't get me wrong, getting up at your boat at 3 a.m. and going to hang in a set and shooting a 160-inch deer that's landlocked.
I'm about that.
Dude, that's cool. Like, that's cool. I watched them, and honestly, I kind of stole it from the Hunting Public boys. I watched them do that, several times, which was kind of cool to put in the tool belt. I was like, I never thought about even doing that.
Everybody else is doing it.
Oh, there's people been doing it for years.
Oh, yeah.
There's people have been doing it for years. I just never was really brought to my attention, but I really want to do that this year.
2 weeks ago, we were at our annual fish camp, and me and Dad we heard a bird gobbling from Dad's buddy's property, and me and my other buddy, we're like, we're gonna go get on that buck or we're gonna go get on that bird in the morning. He's on core ground. And so me and Dad got to looking around. And Dad's like, right here, like look at this, landlocked. It's like a 4 or 5 mile boat ride.
So are you guys going down to Mark Twain Lake area?
Yeah,
that's where I want to go.
Yep.
We were supposed to close on a house out there. It's been like kind of a crazy past few months for us because we had our house for sale. Well, we still have it for sale, but we had some things fall through, you know, and didn't really work out. But we had a spot where we were going to live out in Stoutsville, and it was perfect. It was
really
like,
good looking ground out there.
Man, it is what it is. We'll get out there eventually. At some point, we'll get out to the lake. We've been waiting like 6 years to get out to the lake and find the perfect property. But until then, we're here, which I'm not upset about because I do love this house. It's
the studio is awesome.
It's a great house. It's just got a good feel. It's fun. It's like, you know, I built it to. I'll probably rent it honestly to somebody. But yeah, no, we went out to those areas and it was like we were a minute away from boat docks, and I'm like, dude, this is where I need to be. You know, like this is where I need to be. And there's a spot which we'll talk afterwards that we're gonna hit it. I'm telling you.
Hopefully
it looks like such a buck nest.
Hopefully we're not talking about the same place.
It might be.
It very well might be.
It might be. It's not far off of 24. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, we might be talking about the same place.
It looks mean. That's all I got to say. It looks like a spot.
I saw some spot where you could tell an old boy's got it figured out in a CRP field, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Hey, I'm telling you what, those crews in October, them like mid-October, if you're them CRPs tucked away, you got food up top, and then you've got, you know, where you can slip in that backside. That's how my buddy killed his buck last year, Chad. That deer was, he sent me that video at like 8 in the morning. I was here at the time, and he's like, I think it's a gooder, you know, and it steps out into it steps out into the frame, and I'm like, dude, no, that's a stud. And he's like, how big you think? I'm like, he's 140s, 150s, easy. And he's like, you think? And I'm like, no, he's easy. And he was like 140, 147 and some change. You know, just a public land buck, and he snapped off a brow tine. So
that pushes him over 150.
He was over one. I think he was over 150s, I believe, pretty easy. This guy actually only ended up scoring, I believe, it was 138. I think, believe it or not. But he had a lot of deduction too. Yeah, he had a lot. I think almost 16 inches of deduction.
Hey, nets are for fishing though.
Yeah, no. Like, yeah, for sure. And that's like, we talk about, you know, we were just talking about diversity and going places and different things. As you know, obviously we get the show as it goes on further. We started the Ridge Ghost thing, and me and a good buddy of mine, Chad, the one I was talking about. And we're going to try to juggle some places, but we're trying to get to that point where we can just really have fun with it traveling. You know, if this show ever takes off to the point where we're just, you know, making money off of it and doing it, because we don't make any money off this is for you guys. If it does, it's just going to pay for hunts. That's all we want to do. We actually we talked about other things, you know, like I was like, dude, if it paid for hunts for me and I could just go out and give free merch to people, that would be awesome. Like, that's all.
Absolutely.
Like, if I can give back to I try to give giveaways and stuff like that all the time because I just want people to get interested in it, you know. Like, we had one, it was probably about a week ago, kid. He was public land hunting with his dad, and I had some shirts and some other stuff. And, like, dude, he didn't even know what to think. He's like, oh, man, that's so cool. And I'm like, no, we're not big time, man. We're having fun. But just the pure joy he had from getting a free shirt and, like, hanging out with people who were just hunting. Like, it changed his whole aspect.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was so much fun to watch somebody just go from, oh, this is fun, to, yeah, I'm ready to come back out here tomorrow, you know. And you could tell he was like, we was doing a youth season for turkey season too, and there was a couple kids that, you know, they were out there, they were with dad, you know, but they just weren't engaged quite yet, you know. And I think this whole thing, being able to go out there and show kids, like, hey man, you can have fun with this. Like, you can have a lot of fun with this. They're like, oh, I get to get on a camera. Oh, I get to get on YouTube or something. They didn't even think about anything else. They're like, oh, that's so cool, you know. And those kids had a ball. Like, the whole rest of the time we was out there, they had a good old time. You know, they didn't even. We were hunting, or at least that's what they thought we were doing. And we were just enjoying. You know what I mean? And I had a good weekend with my girls, and turkey season was good to me this year. It was way good.
Absolutely, that's what.
Was it good for you? It was good for you.
Oh,
I've seen all kinds
most
of
definitely.
Photos.
Yeah, I killed both my birds, and my little boy, he'll be 4 next year, or
awesome.
Not next year, but next month. Sorry.
Yeah.
And he and I went out, and man, he is flipping obsessed. Like, holy cow! I think every buck I've killed, but this deer, you know, he's been there just doing the grip and grin, and he was actually with me for that buck last year.
The big one, yeah.
Yep. And that's what, you know, this is my deer, that's our deer,
yeah.
And I've got another buck on the wall in a couple Euro mounts, and the other full body mount. Or
what
the
is
other.
It, 6? Is it 6 that they have to be, or is there a certain age for youth season?
I
think it is 6.
Yeah. I killed a non-typical drop tine buck with a third main beam, and that's Waylon's deer. So,
right.
So I'm like, okay, like, we've each got our own deer, and then that's our deer, because he was with me, and I was like, You know what? Like I was so worried when
Yeah.
he was coming into the world. I was like, what if he grows up to be a communist? Or something? I was like, I eat red meat. I love fishing, and I cut deer hunting is 365. And Dad's like, that boy has no choice. Like, it is in your blood, man. And I'm like, yeah.
I mean,
I
have 4 girls, so I'm right there with you. So like whenever like, oh, it's a girl again, and I'm like, man, am I like, are these girls gonna want? Are they gonna want to do this, dude? Their favorite thing is to, like, if I start the truck up and they're not going, they're like, come on, dude, you got to take me right now. Like, what are you doing?
And that's what I was worried about. Like the same thing, you know. But dude, you take a kid outdoors, all you got to do is hook them in with some Skittles and a Dr. Pepper, dude. Yeah, that's the way Waylon is.
You know, they're more excited about that snack, but then they're also just learning, like, everything that's exciting about the hunt.
Absolutely. And that's what I learned. It's like, you know, you take them out kind of like pulling Mark Drury, take them out the last 2 or 3 hours, prime time. You know, fortunate enough to have a good food plot and some shooting houses. It's awesome. I was waxing a couple does with my bow this year, and Waylon's like, "You got her, Daddy."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, I did, dude. You're proud of you for like holding it together." Because like he just like, I think he's a blood trailing fool. Absolutely.
Yeah, but learning that, dude, like he's getting something that most kids don't. Like,
oh yeah.
The crazy part about like what I think with this community, you know, as far as the hunt community goes, it's just we want to hunt, we want to be left alone, we want to teach our kids to do something fun, we want to give them good, honest, easy fun. And that's what hunting does. It's therapy. Like it's 1,000,000% therapy. Like it's tree therapy. You know, teaching your kids. You know, if you have a bad day at work, you have a bad day at this. You know, something like that. Just go out in the woods. It don't even matter if you're hunting. I mean, even if you're just going out there to set. You know, that's a place to collect your thoughts.
Absolutely, and it all stems back from, you know, when I was probably 3 or 4 years old, between my Uncle Wayne and my dad. You know, never once did either one of them tell me I couldn't go. You know, my dad most definitely, I know, made sacrifices on good days to hunt. And we went to a lesser spot.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he knew, hey, I've got vacation from work, but this kid's only got 2 days. Or he's off for Thanksgiving break. Like, let's go. And we killed deer, and we saw really good deer. And I remember I was 11 years old. We were hunting, like, one of the supreme spots. And I was, like, my first year bow hunting. Right when the Realtree Easy Hanger came out, you know, like a triple arm. So my bow's, like, I'm right-handed. So my bow's all the way around the back of the tree. And Dad's sitting in another lock-on stand, probably about 3 or 4 foot above me, and this, like, 140-inch 10-pointer's coming. He's coming down a hill, across the ditch, and up. And this trail's, like, 7 yards. And I look up, and Dad's got that old He's pulled back, and all I see sticking out of his riser is that 3-blade muzzy. And I'm like, oh.
Oh, man.
Whop. And instantly, dude, I started crying. I was like, Dad, that was going to be my first deer. He's like, do you know what that was? He's like, you had your bow around the tree. He's like, I bet you listen to me next.
Yep.
And I'm like,
lived and learned. My brother and my dad did that one time. There was gun hunting, and I came to this I wasn't having no luck in this spot we called the boat seat. And I kept watching these bucks cross the road and go right to where they were at. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I've not heard a gunshot over there yet. So I was like, I'm going to get out and I'm going to go around, and the next, you know, once it kind of settles down here, once 9, 10 o'clock, and let them get bedded for a bit, and I'm going to make my way over. Yeah, I was in that blind 10 minutes. I was sitting behind him, and my brother had this 30-30, and my dad had his 30-06. And I look at him like, hey, dude, look at that big old thing coming across here. And he was just gently coming across this field. My dad's like, oh, it was supposed to be my brother's deer. Dude, no, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. He flipped that window up and pushed my brother out of the way. And my brother's just watching him, and boom, drops his deer, right? My brother looks over at him. He's like, that was supposed to be my deer. And I'm like, well, I seen it first. Technically, it was supposed to be me. You see it first. You get first crack. And my dad just looks at both of us, and he's like, do you pay a mortgage?
Exactly.
I'm like, nah, it's your deer. Like, that was your deer.
Yep.
But yeah, no, that always cracks me up. You know, you get those moments where, you know, last year or 2 years ago, Lily had a chance at the buck that I actually did harvesting during last gun season. And dude, it was like the funniest thing ever to watch her like see a giant, you know, in front of her. She's like, oh man, he's big. I'm like, yeah, get him in the scope. And he's, oh no, he's real big. I'm like, get him in the scope. What are you doing? You know, you're going to have that moment.
Oh, most definitely. And that's what I hope.
That's the hardest part, is like watching a 150-inch deer walk away. And because it's not because you're like disappointed that they didn't shoot it.
Things happen.
You're just like, oh, I wanted that so bad for you. It hurts more to watch your kid not get one than it does when they walk away from you. 100%.
The amount of deer that I've literally had to watch walk straight away, and every deer, you know, looks 200 inches. He's walking dead away from you. Like it's like you remember those deer. Like I think I was 15. It was 2009, and it was like my last year to youth hunt or whatever. But I just took my bow so I could hunt by myself. Perfect textbook setup. We're sitting in a little draw out. Got a little hidey hole kill food plot and a bean field. Didn't see a deer all night. Walking straight out of this cow pasture comes just a megalodon giant. I stand up on a seat. I'm a big guy, so this is an acrobatic move for me. So I stand up on the seat, get above this limb that's my cover, and I just zip one right through, and I hit him dead nuts in the shoulder. Literally, that deer took off like on a dead sprint. I'm like, man, my dad's gonna be so proud and all this. And I think I was shooting like 60 pounds, little wimpy, mechanical broadhead, shooting, a Twizzler.
Yeah.
Whatever, like basically, like I watched him go away. Next morning we come back. Arrows laying 75 yards away, snapped off at the ferrule of the broadhead. We keep tracking, whatever. Two months later, we're going to hunt. It's a snowstorm, like perfect cold front. I literally see this deer standing in a hayfield, getting ready to jump the fence, going to the western half of the property. And I was like, Dad, that's that buck I killed. And he's like, wow. I was like, I know what a big deer is. I said, not everything is like goes from this to this. Like,
right.
Because when I was younger, like ground shrinkage was real big.
Oh, no, it
like,
still happens.
Yeah.
No, I've had a few that I've like, man, that's not what I thought it was. Right there at getting to that last part.
I really learned something in the last few years. At first glance, if that deer makes you cuss,
yes,
you better be getting it.
Yes.
It's the real 100%. Deal.
Oh, that's like that one last year. It was 10 minutes before dark. He was 100 and I don't know. I would like to sit there and say I could pinpoint him, but he was big. Mm-hmm. I would guess, if I was to guess, 170s, 180s is what I would guess. And then I had another one in the 160s, and I'm almost positive he would have been right in that range. Both of them do that same thing, dude. I had several deer where I was just outside of that realm of being comfortable. And that's something, I guess, last year that I had that I can kind of, I've been doing this a long time as far as hunting wise, but I'm still like figuring out each property. That's the thing I think I love about hunting the most, because each property has something different to offer.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a firm believer it takes
hard.
You 4 to 5 years to really get it dialed in, because you make a move and you get one good buck location figured out, or you're dialing in your rut spots, mainly hunting terrain, and you just start figuring out pieces. Your neighbors change, and this alters, or the place to the north gets logged. Yeah, absolutely.
I think a big one for that is neighbor change, because that's 4 or 5 years of work.
Because that's
and
one,
then it changes in a day
on the property that my dad and his buddies lease. I kid you not, Keith. We've got 16 different neighbors. This thing is 400 yards wide, 2 miles long. So it hunts great. If you started north and go south, I mean, you can spread 15 guys out.
Right.
But you're just surrounded by different guys. And the place hadn't, it wasn't very well accessible for, the guys that didn't have four-wheelers or side-by-side. So the back half of it never really got hunted.
Right.
So we had a lot of trespassing issues and stuff like that. And now we've kind of groomed it, manicured it. But that's the thing, is Joe Schmuckatelli might be on your same game plan, and then so-and-so, and, farms are getting sold, this, that. I mean, it seems like everybody's putting their ground up for sale.
Biggest thing for me this last year was watching housing developments. Mm-hmm. I've seen so many housing developments come up in the last...
Dude, it's ridiculous.
5 years. I mean, last 5 years, there's in places I never thought there would even be. Not that they've affected me in some of the places. It's been more public land areas that it's actually affected. But yeah, the decrease in just that kind of a movement.
Absolutely.
It's so wild to watch, something that you did hunt, for 5-10 years. To have a completely different field trip.
You drive by, a Supreme alfalfa field 20 years ago. And now literally a family bought it, and there's 6 houses on a 20-acre piece. I'm like, man, I used to see 15, 20 deer out there guaranteed.
Yep. And that's another thing too, like we talk about, I have a buddy that's really into how the ag distribution goes around his area. Mm-hmm. And he's really big in his community as far as, what's being put in. And he tries to make it to where, I can't remember how many miles. I'm probably going to booger this up, but I think he said within 4 square miles is what you want to try to get a hold of landowners. Mm-hmm. And just kind of, what are you putting in this year? What's this? What's going on with that? And he goes, honestly, I thought people would be upset about it. Me calling and asking, some random stranger. I own this property over here.
Absolutely.
Because honestly, everybody was just kind of cool about it. He's like, we swapped deer photos. He's like, I had a buck that was huge. It was like a 200-something inch deer, and ended up getting killed on the neighbor's property. But it was 2.5 miles away from where he'd had on a picture 2 days before that.
Absolutely.
And he's like, I would have never known that he had that much, distance in his daily routine or his weekly routine or whatever it was that he was doing, if I wouldn't have figured out my neighbors all the way out that far. He said, if I could figure my neighbors out to 10 miles, he goes, I'd do it.
And that's what the neighbor to the north and we've got a really good relationship over, I guess this will be the last couple seasons. And that's been the most beneficial thing.
It is.
Because for always and forever, I just worried about my little piece. And what happened to me. And I started reaching out and, coordinating back and forth with landowners. And, what you find out is it'll really surprise you.
It does.
Not everybody's working against you.
No.
It's just all right. And that's like 4 or 5 years ago, I really started to develop, my fine tuning of being a lone wolf killer and stuff like this. But you have to reach out and find out what people are doing, because you might have, I kid you not, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, we had 135, 140 inch 2-year-old buck get killed.
No joke. And that's kind of a bummer.
And if everybody could have been on the same, which I will never ever tell somebody, don't shoot this deer.
Right.
Because you can't do that.
No, I mean nobody owns a deer, and
absolutely. Yeah. But if if your neighbor's like,
if he's cool with it, then, yeah.
But if you're like, I've got to shoot that deer because my neighbor's going to.
Yeah.
What if your neighbor's trying to kill that 7-year-old deer and he's passing everything? Right. You kind of look like a fool because you just.
Well, that's what my buddy was saying, and he does he hunts in, I can't remember what county. I want to say it's Rawls. I think it's either Rawls or Pike here in Missouri, but and that's what he said. Everybody was on such a different page. They were kind of out for that whole, well, if it's 130, 140 inches, let's kill it. Because my neighbor's going to kill it. Well, that wasn't even the case. He said
everybody's the class above and just doesn't even know it.
Yeah, and the best part, he said that the 10 properties that actually surrounded my property, we've all shot 160 inch plus deer for the last 4 years now. We've been on this program together for about 7 years.
They could build an empire.
Oh, dude. And he's like, we don't overhunt it. He goes, my buddies text me when, even on their farm, they'll shoot me a text and go, hey, I'm coming out tonight, good luck to you, or whatever. And he's like, the best part about it is, one, it didn't just bring bigger bucks. It brought a community together. It brought, hey, I've got a buck that I could use some help getting out tonight. Well, they were already out there.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You didn't have to call your friend from in town. You got a guy that's right next door that, you're going to repay the favor to next. That's what we've kind of gotten away from in this community, I feel. Everybody is kind of on that, well, I want my deer to be on my, well, it is what it is. I mean, it'd be great to have deer that's summer, fall, and winter on you, but it's rare.
Impossible. Almost, yeah.
I've only seen probably 2 bucks in the past 7 years do that.
Well, and I
didn't move really off.
I
the
say
farm.
It's impossible, but actually, this deer, I got pictures. My first card pull, I put him out the 1st August.
It seems like the bigger ones do that, though.
Yeah, had him across the road. He was there, 1st August, and he basically
how old do you think he was?
I honestly don't know. I would say probably 5 years old, because I know confidently that we had one of my dad's buddies. He was going down the road one morning to go hunt, and he's pretty sure he saw this deer. And then the local guy, he was baling hay, and he found a couple sheds off him. And I was like, all right, there's something to be had here, so let's get some cameras out. And I kind of saturated the place with cameras. And, I say I was kind of spoon-fed in a way, but all my friends and family and everything, they think I'm a freak.
For doing all the work?
Oh, dude, all the time. It's like, it's whitetails
do you talk
every
about
single day,
else?
24/7. No, I literally,
No.
I catfish like when it's super scorching hot, and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm like literally, like, my buddy at work makes fun of me because like January, my boss is like, hey, if you guys are taking any more than a week, like, just give me a heads up. Like, I want the first 3 weeks of November. I'm your guy. Like, I'll tell you right now, 11 months ahead of time. And the dude's like, you're not taking any long weekends? I was like, what are long weekends for?
Because
family vacation. Like, okay, like, grinds. Yeah, exactly.
Like the grind is, I'm like fortunate enough to where like I can stay at home with my kids and I get to pretty much hunt a bunch. A bunch, and I mean, it's great. The best part is I get to spend more time with my kids than probably anybody else that I know. And I mean, me and my wife both, I mean, we're fortunate where she works 38 to 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here every day with the kiddos, and I get to go take them out and just enjoy the outdoors.
Absolutely.
And we worked hard to get there. We worked really hard. Some people are like, man, you don't want to be, in Mexico or do this. I'm like, no, we can go there. My kids are too young right now. Like,
Absolutely.
why would I want to take them
And that's kind of the way I feel. I want, a big trip like that. Let them be, let them enjoy it and remember it. Because that might be a once in a lifetime deal until they get to be, 30, 35, whatever, I mean, definitely dues have been paid.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. But that's nobody can take that away from you.
Hunting, the hunting is, like I said, it's such a raw community in the sense of like, you don't have anybody that really wants to, I don't think there's really anybody that really wants to bicker anymore about it. And so when you get your kids into that scenario, it honestly teaches them more about life than most people think. They understand, what it is to go out and, harvest an animal. And provide for themselves. And, it teaches them life lessons that they don't get anywhere else.
And that's what I'm so fortunate because my dad and my uncle have become my best friends. Both my brothers hunt. My sister is an occasional gun hunter. She'll hunt the opening weekend, maybe the second week a little bit, just to hang out with the family and dad.
Come to camp.
I've got 3 friends, well, 4 or 5, I guess now, that I met you and Dalton over this new year, and like confidently I can call like 5 guys and be like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And then all you guys would be like, dude, it's going down tonight. Like everybody wants to see everybody succeed so bad. And that's when you can dial that into your small circle of just absolute the best guys.
I'm telling you, dude, it's changing. Cause like I've got guys around the industry that, just literally probably in the last year and a half that I went from, hunting local with buddies and doing all that for years. And then now that I've stepped into this world, it's like, man, there's a lot of us. And none of them have anything negative.
Oh, absolutely.
All they want to do is see you succeed. And if that isn't a reason to go out and do this, we have so much depression, so many things that go wrong in this country. Like we have tons of issues. But the one thing I can guarantee you will have fun doing no matter what it is getting out in the woods. I promise you. You
don't see anybody frown in the woods unless they just missed or just,
even then they're like, well, let's get back after night.
Yeah.
It gets, you even get amped up even more almost.
Yeah,
it's almost like when you do miss it, you're like, now I need to go out there.
Yeah, I'm going to make this 75-yard move.
Yes.
We're going to throw this stand up. We're going to get with it.
I had a buddy, Eric, last year that came with us, and I've mentioned him several times on the show. He's probably getting more out about it now at this point, but he's from Chicago. Never hunted really much his whole life. It was his first deer hunt last year. We shot a deer at 10 yards on the ground, ghillie hunting. His first buck ever. And dude, his face when we hit, my face when that thing was so close. I mean, we could see the air coming out his nose. And he's looking at me. He's like, I don't have a shot. I'm like, lean out. And there was this little bitty stick right in front of him between him and that deer, little bitty sapling, And I was like, just lean out. He goes, you think he'll see me? I'm like, oh, he's going to see you, so be ready to shoot,
Yeah.
And he leaned out, and that deer, gave him that second look, and then
dude
just whop. I mean, and I was like, oh, I turned around, and he was like, oh. I mean, it was just he's like, I didn't think my adrenaline was going to go that bad. I'm like, dude, you can't stand yourself. He's like, I can't even right now. I'm like, I told you, dude.
That's what I'm telling you.
It'll cleanse your soul, as Frank Bear said.
I've got a buddy, James, he got into, he's been a rifle hunter since he was a kid. Not to take anything away from rifle hunters, because my 2 biggest bucks have been killed with a rifle.
Same here.
But I keep telling him, I'm like, he got introduced into bow hunting in 2016. And he's the type of guy, he's got the rifle hunter mindset still. He's learning. He's fine tweaking. I'm like, man, don't be afraid to get 10 yards off that trail.
Yeah,
just brush yourself in, because you can't hide Sasquatch 15 feet in the air. You just can't. That's what I tell him. I'm like, I love you, but we're both big guys.
Ghillies are so fun, dude.
Absolutely.
If you haven't dove into it, that's the one big one for crossbows. Everybody has this crossbow thing. I don't care what you shoot. If you're ethical with it, that's all I care about.
See, and that's what I changed. I changed my views. I was one of those typical guys. I'm like, oh my gosh, crossbows are going to extinct the white-tailed deer herd.
Nope.
Dude. It's getting older guys involved. It's getting women involved. Kids. Kids are huge. My boy is going to be able to potentially shoot his first deer with a crossbow at 6 instead of waiting until 10 or 11.
I got a new R26 if you want to take it out with the kiddos.
That would be sweet.
It is sweet. We were hitting does at 70 yards last
Holy
year.
Smokes.
That thing. Yeah, it's gross. That thing is if you're for kids, it's gross. I'll definitely come up during that youth season and because I don't even know if my girls are going to want to go through actual youth season this year. They like hunting in November. And Lily and them, they don't really.
Can't knock them.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're getting that. some of the spots I hunt, they already know.
They know where Dad goes.
Yeah. They're like, hey, I'll wait to just go with you in November, you know, and versus actually hunting, which they're little dainty things. So it's like hard to get them to shoot guns and do stuff like that. Lily, she's the skinniest little rail you've ever seen in your life. She's got no problem shooting the AR and getting out there. She does. She's like, it thing kicks her butt, but she's like all about it. But
that's why I was saying, my buddy James, you know, like, you know, you take the people that shoot the crossbows and the rifles, and then you get them within 10 yards, and they see a deer do what a deer does. Just like your kids, you know, like starting them out with a crossbow. Like when they're like in your face, like that's,
it's intense.
I can't even imagine.
Like we had one, I shot a doe 2 years ago with a crossbow. That's kind of where I got into ghillie hunting with crossbow. I'd bought my kids a crossbow to hunt. So I was like, I'm going to take this thing out and have some fun with it. You know what I mean? We can shoot them. Why not? So I bought a really awesome ghillie suit and I got brushed in. I had a deer walk, I'm not kidding, from me to that wall, a doe. And I was just sitting in this little V of grass. You couldn't see me. She had no idea. I was looking down at my phone and I heard, and I was like, where is that coming from, you know? And I look over and I could just barely see her tail flicker over this tall switchgrass I was sitting in. She had no idea I was there. Wind was blowing dead in my face, blowing right back away from me. She walked, not even.
She had no idea.
No idea. She was 2 yards, maybe.
She was so close to death and had no idea.
Dude, it hit. I smoked her, dude. It hit so hard, it sounded like I hit her with a sledgehammer.
I'm surprised you didn't knock her down.
Dude, she did. Dude, it scared me. Like, I had dirt and stuff on my legs. I was just sitting there in a little turkey chair in this, and all I could see was her body move right in front of the grass, the V. And I was like, oh, man.
Front leg goes straight up.
Dude, all I did was take that crossbow up on that I had a little tripod thing, and I just picked it up. I was like, no way. And then I thought about it for a second, like, do I want to shoot her that close? Like, is this going to hurt me? Or is this going to, I'm like, nah, I'm going to go for it. I wish I'd have had a camera because it was sweet. At that time, I wasn't filming, but dude, no, I shook more after that than I have on any buck I've shot with a bow. Like, hands down, like, I was a mess after that. I was like, holy crap. Like, I felt all the dirt, everything. Her kick up, all of it. It was all over me. And by the time I got done, I remember calling my wife and I was like, holy crap. She's like, did you shoot a big one? I'm like, no, I shot a doe, but whoa, like it was like, insane.
That's like my dad, like every deer camp, like I make him tell this, it's called the peg leg story. And peg leg, if you're out there, please reach out. I've got to find you. But like Dad was down in the deep in the middle of a piece of public. And I guess he walked in, he carried in like 5 or 6 screw-in steps, threw up his old set, you know, just on a doe hunt. Well, I guess this doe comes by, and he used to shoot like 100-pound high country back in the day with those 22 19s. So Dad, I guess, he pulls back, whops this doe, pins her shoulders together. She goes running down over the ridge, just like doing that death ball and hit a tree. So Dad's like, all right, you know, she's done for. 30 minutes later, he walks down over there, and just blood everywhere, I guess, everything, just a perfect track job. This old man with one leg, he's got a peg, comes walking over. He goes, "Jeez almighty, thank God it's a human." He goes, "I didn't know what it was." I guess he was sitting over there on a stump. Dude's got one leg, you know, he couldn't run. And then Dad's like, "Yeah, I shot this deer." A couple hollers over, he goes, "My God, son, I heard the most awful death ball, blah, blah, blah. I'm so glad it's a human." And I did, like, Dad tells that story forever. I was like, can you even imagine
like
the terror of that man? Like, just a frail old man just walked out in the woods, you know, just trying to enjoy his hunt. Like, just doing is that a grizzly bear? Like,
one time, talking about with our mentors, with Dad, and we had a fox. You ever heard of fox in the night? Like, call for its dude. That sounds like a person getting axe murdered.
Dude, that's the way bobcats are. They're scary.
Thing. I remember I was like 11 years old, 12 maybe at the time. We was walking into the spot called a boat seat, and that Dad was right next to me, and that thing popped off. And Dad, quick as he could, he pulled that out of nowhere. He's like, "What was that?" I'm like, "I have no idea.
I'll stand behind you. Though.
I was hoping you would know what that was. Like we both. I was like, I don't even want to go in them woods. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you. It ended up being a fox looking for its little kids.
Gosh, dang.
It was terrible sounding. It sounded like some Blair Witch. You know, it's pitch dark when you're walking in too.
Well, that's how like a bobcat will scream. It'll sound like a grown woman. I'm like.
I've heard them do that same thing. Yeah.
You know, I'm not too scared of much of anything other than something that could eat me. But you hear that, I'm like,
well, it'll set you off.
What's really going on?
Stand the hair on your neck. Yeah. Like, oh, what was that? You know. But we're gonna talk a little bit about mentors too today. You know, and what they've taught us, what they've done for us. You know, like what would you say the most important thing your mentors have told you? If you had to sit there and say like a diehard thing that you take into the woods to every time, like in your brain, like what is the one thing that you think about the most when you're walking in that a mentors that have taught you?
Aside from, hard work and paying your dues and getting rewarded on that, I would say it'd probably be just, I mean, I don't know. There's so many things, honestly, to be real with you, it just boils down to the fact of being a good conservationist and being a steward of the land, because, not to get religious on anybody or anything like that,
right.
but, karma is real and God sees what you do every day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going in and if you're not being a good educated sportsman or just not paying your dues in the woods toward that animal.
Yep.
I would say that'd probably be the biggest on both sides of that, through my uncle and my dad. That's always been the biggest thing. If you couldn't hit the pie plate with your rifle, or if you were shooting all over the target with your bow, you weren't going. That's just what it was.
Right.
And
you weren't putting in that work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just basically what it's been, is you walk into the woods, you leave it better than you found it.
Yes.
You do everything in your power. If you stick a buck in the hindquarter, it doesn't matter. If you have to follow him 7 miles and call 15 landowners, you have to make every effort. Yeah.
Yes. I agree with you.
And that truly paved the way for the respect. I mean, I still feel bad. Not feel bad for extent, but I guess the older you get, the more serious, when you're dialing in and you're hunting that deer or two of your main shooters and you harvest that deer. I sat there next to this deer and I cried. Because all the work I'd put in, I had followed him since the 1st of August. We knew about him prior to, and I was just like, this is probably the biggest deer that I will ever kill. And my dad works on the road. My uncle works on the road. And for them to be hunting together on a Tuesday morning and for me to call them like, you guys got to get here.
Yeah.
Well, they gave me the shaft.
Yeah.
They're like, we're going to hunt till 11 o'clock. So I'm like.
That's a real mentor when they're like, hey, congrats, but we'll see you at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock.
They're like, we got 10 deer out here. Yeah. I'm like, you guys don't understand.
He's
you guys really don't get it.
You're like, forget those 10 deer right now.
The way I got him all like he's bedded up, and I just folded his head over all pretty and got him all cleaned up with the baby wipes and stuff. And I sent Dad, I got real low on him, sent Dad a picture, and he's like, oh, we're on our way.
We'll be there in about 10 minutes.
He's like, well, I talked to Wayne. We'll be there in a minute. I'm like,
I talked to Wayne.
His dad had already killed a buck. I think it was that Sunday morning or yesterday. I think it was actually the Monday. I killed him on the first Tuesday morning. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Another thing I'd like to talk about on that deal is, I was working on the road at the time, and this plays huge for everybody going forward. If you do what you have to do, you will get the reward of it.
Yes.
Because like I said, I was working on the road. My boss gave me a Monday and a Tuesday to hunt. I was like, that's all I need, man. Well, I get a call Sunday night that my boy's sick. And so I had to go down there, take him to the doctor. And I'm like, man, this is, really bummed me out. Like one of my days to hunt, was already canned.
Toast. Yeah.
But I spent the entire day with him. And the very next morning I came back and look what I got.
Right.
And I heard that on another podcast the other day, is that, the good vibes in, good vibes out. Like,
for sure.
If you handle what you have to do, whether it be work, family, school, anything, it'll all work out.
Yeah. Me and my wife are huge about that. She does, she reads into a lot of like the Buddhist teachings and stuff. Because if you haven't read any of that stuff, it's really neat. Like it's not like, it's honestly not even, I don't know why they call it a religion half the time, because it's more just like, it's a life lesson type deal. And she's always about that. She's like, just remember, every time you do something, it's a cog in that wheel.
Oh,
and if
seriously.
the way that karma works, honey, is as it happens, it'll come back around at some point and it'll remind you. But if you don't put a cog in there with a bad thought, it can't come back around and bite you. And that's what the whole karma thing is about. And so I take that into the woods almost every time I go. Like even when I have a night where I don't see anything that was worth it, I sit there and I just enjoy it. I'm like, dude, just be happy that you can be out here.
Yeah, because there's times where, where we were, young in our careers and we didn't have vacation. Or we didn't have this, or playing school sports and stuff like that. So, you're sitting out there and that's the thing. Like, I'm kind of a newbie into public land and stuff like that. And I hunted a little bit on it last year, and I'm just trying to dabble. If you see a headlamp coming through the woods, don't get discouraged, because you might be one of those guys sitting in a factory sweating your you know what's off, you know, wishing, man, I wish I was, you know, deer hunting, but my boss won't let me off.
Well, you know, pretty much 6 years. I did hunt a little bit while I was in the military, but there's a period of 6 years where I didn't really get to hunt at all.
So you came out just fresh, ripping, ready to go.
So when I got back, when I got out of the military, me and my wife moved back here to Missouri. That was like pretty much one of my biggest main focuses was, hey, I need to get back in. Not only because, you know, we didn't really have much when we got out. We had what we had. We moved. We came back across the country, you know, and so like my wife, you know, she didn't understand what it was like to hunt deer here because I went out there in North Carolina and places that I'd lived. I'd hunt and hardly had any success out there because it's just hard to hunt.
Yeah, they run them with dogs and everything.
Well, and we're coastal too,
so
we were, you know, I had to really drive far to get into any kind of good land. And so when I moved back here, and the first day I went out for bow season, I came back with 2 does. And she was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, that's gonna feed us.
Yeah,
you know, we don't have to worry about groceries or other than, you know, potatoes, carrots. That's another thing, dude. You know, when we've got an economy right now that's rough.
Absolutely.
And you know, if you're not out there hunting this year, you put some freezer queens in there for you, man.
Yeah.
You know, like it's good. It's so good to just like you can do jerkies. There's a million recipes you can do, and it's basically a grass-fed cow is what it is.
Yep.
That's all it is. It's all about how you prepare it, how you do it. But people that don't, you know, grow up doing that, they don't. It's like I feel so bad for them. They're missing out. You know, they're missing out on such an awesome thing.
You know, and I kind of looked at them as weirdos.
Yeah, no,
you know?
I did.
And like guys that would kill quite a few deer, and then they're like, "Well, I got to get it to the processor." I'm like, man.
I only take 1 deer a year to the processors.
Yeah,
I go
absolutely.
Because I really like this ring bologna that the Amish do up in
good stuff.
I think it's Rutledge, Missouri.
Man,
dude, and it's like it's so good.
Yeah, and that's
so
what I tried to educate all my friends. I'm like, I don't know what a processing fee is, but I was like, we can just hack this up in my dad's garage and be done in an hour. Like, I'll show you. Like,
you're never gonna beat backstraps. Like my buddy Chad, I'm gonna give him a shout out right now because he cooks a backstrap that's wrapped in bacon and brown sugar.
Dude.
That's like, dude, my kids couldn't stop eating them. We
tastes like beef loin.
Dude, it's so good. And like that's the thing. Like nobody. Like when you take somebody hunting the first time and they kill their first deer or whatever, then you get all that meat off there, like, holy cow, you know, like that's a lot. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're going to mix it in with pork if you want to, or a little beef fat or whatever you want to do.
That's like I was a kid. All we had was like fried deer steaks, butterflied, and sausage. And now I'm leaving those loins in whole and cutting them in half, wrapping them in bacon, throwing them on the smoker. And I'm like, yes, like,
dude.
I gotta kill 4 or 5 a year just to keep doing this all year.
We ran out this year already. We're already out, other than the little bit of deer sausage we have left. But you know, I shot 5 deer last year, I think. I had 1 buck. Yeah, 1 buck and 4 does. And I gave 2 of those does away, so I had 3 whole deer in my freezer, and we were out a month ago.
That's what I'm hoping.
My kids love it.
I've got 4 in the freezer still. Well, 4 in a partial, I guess. Still, and I've got a couple beef that are going to go to the slaughterhouse this October, but I'm like, man, for the first time, like I'm kind of self-sustained.
Right.
Like those deer carry me over till the kill date on those steers, and I'm just like, this is awesome. It is. Especially in Biden's economy. I mean, they're going to price themselves out of everything, and that's where, you know, you don't have to go full caveman.
Right.
But you know, it's more, you know, just like, you know, like you said, give a deer away if somebody's not had time, or somebody just like, man, I really like deer, but I don't want to hunt.
I had a friend that literally was getting ready to go on the road. He snowboards for 6 months out of the year, and he comes back here and lives. He lives in Colorado for half the year, and he comes back here for half the year. Well, actually, less than that. He's probably in Colorado for like 8 months and comes back here 4 months.
Nothing wrong with that.
Lives in a bus when he's out there. He converted a bus into a little house. Pretty cool. But he just enjoys life. He, you know, he's like, I don't make a ton of money, but I have a good time.
Yeah, he's got enough to get by.
Oh, for sure. And that's all. It's all. He's not we don't live beyond his means.
Hey, you don't have to have a $400 million 401k.
And that's what that's what he was telling me. He's like, you know, he goes, it kind of sucks. He's like, with, you know, beef and all this other stuff. This you know, this year he's like, kind of sucks. You know, I'm like, well, you can come out with me and I'll shoot a deer with you. Or if I kill one or you kill one, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll take you out. He got one and I got one, and we processed it, and that was his whole trip's meat. He'd already covered the whole trip's meat for that 6 months by himself.
That has to be such a stress relief.
Oh, dude, he's like, I got to, you know, he's as wild as it sounds, like I got to go out to the bars a little bit more, you know, I got to have some fun, you know, like it was just a good time, not having to worry about. And that's what these people don't understand. Like,
oh yeah, you guarantee it.
It's,
you know, not everybody's out beating on their chest, you know, just slinging arrows and bullets. Like,
nope.
That's like,
it's conservation. It's honestly, I mean, it is conservation, but it's like, it's a lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Absolutely.
and it's for everybody. That's what people don't understand is it is for everybody.
Absolutely.
You know, whether you do it die hard and, you know, eventually you get to that point where you want to focus on bucks like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of where I'm at in my career. I've shot so many different, you know, I've shot good bucks. I've shot little bucks. I've shot tons of does. I mean, but I'm to that point where I want 5.5.
Yep.
And if I can't get 5.5, you know, and it's end of the year, I might stick a 4.5-year-old just to be able to fill that freezer a little bit more. But I'm to that point. I'm willing to wait till December. You know,
well, that's what I'm really
just there.
I'm really excited this year because over the winter we were able to buy a no-till drill, the three of us, and that's gonna like push me up another level for my late season because you know we've always had 4 or 5 acres worth of food plots and stuff, and it's just like rape and wheat and stuff like that. But we're really dialing it in.
What are you guys gonna put in? What have you put in this year so far?
Well, they just got done this week actually. Wayne and my dad they were drilling the green cover. Summer release. It's like a whole different variety.
It's probably got brassicas.
Yeah, just a whole ton of stuff. You'll drill it. Yeah, you'll drill it in through the summer, and then they come back with a fall release. They made a trip out to Central Kansas or Central Kansas, I guess, to get it, and so they brought home like a whole bunch. They spread a bunch of lime and everything else like that this last week. So.
That winter
got
food
those
is
perfect
so
rains.
Key.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you've got good winter food, December honestly is to me is better.
Yeah.
Like I've had some Decembers where I'm like, man, dude, these bucks are moving back in here hard.
Well, that's what
they're getting pushed.
This last year was such a great season.
A great season.
Yeah, because I just picked up like right at the first year, like the day before the muzzleloader season, I picked up 80 acres.
Oh well, that's
and
sweet.
There was no kidding. There's 45, 50 deer in there a night. So one night I went in, shot a doe. The next couple nights, Dad and Wayne, they went in, doubled on does. I mean, we were hunting. Well, they were, because I was already tagged out, of course, but they were hunting what we thought was a really good deer, and he was just a 3-year-old, so we all elected to pass, Yeah, and so we just turned it into a big doe mission, but you could not beat those deer off there. Like, I stress so much about the rut and this and that, but if you're able to have good quality late-season food.
It's so key.
Slaves to their stomach, man.
It is. They are. I mean, and that's okay. So we had a spot it would have been 2 years ago, where it was a spot that I didn't really hunt. It was a part of the farm that I just kind of, stayed away from.
Mm-hmm.
Just not that I didn't want to hunt it. I just
kind of let it be a sanctuary.
I thought I had better spots, and it was just like, yeah, let it be a sanctuary. I counted 42 does walk out of that field like a train. And the first time in there, and I was like, holy cow, that's a ton. And, of course, like clockwork, right there 10, 15 minutes before dark, bucks did the same thing.
Yep.
Did the same thing. And I'm like, dude, okay, they're all going. That's all they were caring about. They didn't have any pattern. It was just food. That was
Absolutely.
all it was. And so, like, I honestly think that was better to me than the rut.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't get me wrong, I like a good rut hunt.
Oh, absolutely. I'd live and die on November.
The rut, for me, though, here's my thing that I will say about the rut. Rut, your buck is way harder to stop. Even if he's at 10, 7, doesn't matter. No matter how many yards he is away, he's hard to stop. If he's trailing down, he's hard to stop. And I've had that moment where I've been like, meh, and then he's out. Yep. By the time he even hears it, he's out of range.
We'll see you later.
Oh, yep. And for me, like that, after they've bred those does, I really have been turned on to like that December, 5th all the way to the 15th. Like I like that period because they're kind of off them does a little bit, and they're just hunting food. Those deer are all over food.
I sound kind of selfish or whatever you want to call it, but like, I haven't had I really do like to hunt late season. I don't know if you'd call it selfish, but like I've always been tagged out, and I'm like, man, I just want to hunt like late season, and everybody's like,
I have a buddy that
we would kill to have the season you did. I'm like,
right.
I wouldn't trade it, but and that's the problem. We've always had plenty of food plots, but they've not been any more than a quarter to a half an acre. So they just get annihilated.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing now we're able to, rotate in the row crop a little bit, corn and beans, and, have bigger
do a frost seed here and there. And
yeah,
just
absolutely.
Be able to get
so that's what I'm really
seasons.
excited this year. Beans, I've got 6 bucks under my belt in the last 3 years. I've had 3 great years. If I go on a dry spell for 2 or 3 years and I'm able to hunt from September 15th to January 15th, that's cool.
Yeah.
I've got more vacation this year to hunt and more time after work in general from just working local. Like we're going to put out some time.
I'm all about that, dude. I have a buddy that's like firm believer in saving a tag for muzzleloader.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'll hunt pretty much for that 160-ish area. I mean, he's not going to pass up a good 145 to 160. He's not going to do that. But even if he does, after that, it has to be 180. And so he'll shoot that one, and he usually does shoot one in October sometimes, usually when he smacks one, and he'll hunt that rut. And he does, but he's like, it's got to be big.
Yep.
And he'll save that late muzzleloader. And dude, that is so fun. That late muzzleloader.
Dude,
this is the first time I did it last year. I've been hunting for a long time, but I've never done muzzleloader until last year. And then I got sick for like 3 days out of the hunt because my kid brought home, like, I think COVID. Dude, I was the sickest. Dude, I thought I was dying. That was the sickest.
That's the things about like kids is like those daycares and schools, like they're a petri dish.
Oh,
like,
dude.
Every single year, you're guaranteed to get sick because of your kids.
Well, that's like, because these parents got to work 80 hours to keep. Two parents got to work, every day to provide anything in this country right now, and it sucks, but they can't take off time, you know, so they're sending their kid.
Yep. Because
they really don't got a choice, so it is what it is.
You accompany that, and then like that winter blizzard we had where it was like -7. Like I was like, man,
I tell you what, that was some good hunting.
It really was. That night I shot that doe. Hunting. Like I took my wool mittens off and I touched the trigger on that muzzleloader. And I was like, oh, ow. Like, it was cold. I was like, man, don't get frostbite. Like I need you for a minute. Like
it was December, I think the 26th or no 27th. I think it was right before the muzzleloader. I don't remember when muzzleloader starts.
I think it
was the 28th or something like that.
Yeah, I think it
was literally the. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think they allowed everybody to get through Christmas. Probably happy wife, happy life.
Yeah,
because I thought it started on
my buddy was
Christmas
down,
Eve a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was down. It might have been Christmas Eve that it did start. You're right. It was.
I think
Christmas
a couple of years ago it was. I wasn't sure. The 28th or the 26th sounded right this year.
I think it is the 26th. I think it was the 26th this year. I'm almost positive because I remember it being Christmas, and then I was supposed to get up the next morning and start.
Yeah,
but I was sick.
Because that's what we've got, like an annual tradition. Like we'll always go out to my grandpa's house Christmas Eve, and I remember like it's an annual thing. I'm always telling Mom, I'm gonna go hunt. I'm gonna go hunt. Like I got to.
Well, I mean, like we talk about all the different strategies we've learned over the years, and like what it takes to kill these big deer. Like it really when you get to this class, when you get to this caliber of buck, everybody's like, oh, they're so much harder. It's not so much that they're harder, they're just shrinking.
Exactly.
They're shrinking space. They're shrinking their pattern. They're shrinking their home area. And essentially, yes, that does make it hard, but that you got to find them lanes in between, food and bedding, and then you got to figure out how to get there without bumping them, without leaving set and everything else. So yes, it is hard, And if we were talking about mentors, my Uncle James was probably my biggest, mentor when it came to hunting. We did a lot of turkeys. I think I killed several deer with him too, over the years. But, he always instilled, like the number one thing that he always instilled in my head was play that wind.
Yes.
And that was beat into my head. That was probably the biggest thing. And I tell that to any new person that's out there hunting, dude. Watch and your wind.
You kind of asked me what I took away from that, and I kind of went brain dead for a minute. But yeah, the wind. Yeah, if you don't have the wind in your favor, just go home.
Go to a different spot.
Yeah.
Go pick a spot that you've never looked at before. That's what I tell people if your wind ain't right, don't ruin your evening by necessarily just leaving. And that's if you're not out there, you don't have a chance.
It kills me. I just want to like pick people up and shake them when they're like, "This is my stand. I hunt this 7 days a night," and I'm just like, "What are you doing?" It out.
There's not going to be a deer around that area. And I had that same conversation with my kids. Like you can ask my 7-year-old, or my 8-year-old. She'll be like, yeah, play the wind. Like she's gonna tell you, like I've already instilled that in there.
Dad says you got a prevailing southwest wind. This is what this stands for.
And that's another big thing. Like we talk about the whole public land, and everybody gets they think that there's only even if you have one stand. My thing is, if you're gonna start hunting, buy a mobile setup. Don't buy a ladder stand. Don't buy any of the. I know they're cheaper. Save your money. Buy the equipment that you need, not necessarily the best. I've killed. It had been three different deer in the last 4 years with a Thompson Center gun that cost me like $280 with a Nikon scope.
Yep.
Dude, it
kills them deader than a doornail every time.
This guy, 280 bucks killed this dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's
a hand-me-down 7 mag 25 years ago, like
100,
best thing ever.
170 inch freaking 170 plus inch deer. So it's like you look at those things and like everybody gets wrapped up in gear.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, gear don't matter.
Sitka's cool.
It's your strategy.
Yeah, Sitka's cool, but take that money and go buy you a lone wolf or an XOP or even
XOP.
Even Hawk came out with like a budget stand. It's not going to be you can modify that to be quiet.
Easily.
That's not a big deal.
I have 2 Hawks.
Yeah, absolutely.
That are just as
good
quiet
stands.
as my loans.
And that's what going back to the whole mentor thing. Back when the buddy stands came out, like 20 years ago, like
they were the bee's knees.
Yeah, me and Dad.
Because you weren't bored with your buddy, but you didn't see anything. Me and Dad,
me and Dad and Mom, like we loaded up my triplet siblings and we hauled off to wherever Walmart to go get these things. Like I remember it plain as day. Dad carried in the top section. Wayne carried in the bottom section. We threw this stand up in an awesome funnel across 2 lakes. I mean, these deer were just it was a gimme. Like if you were going to come across this land bridge, like you were going to be in our wheelhouse. And that's how I killed my first deers. I specifically remember it was like, a youth season, the 3rd or 4th of November, years and years ago. Dad strips down to his t-shirt, packs this stand on his back. Wayne's like, he's a smaller guy. So he's packing the ladders and stuff. Like I'm here with my little New England single shot 243 and we're going up this hill. And there's probably 120, 130 inch 9-pointer. And this thing's like straight down. Dad's like, if you think you can make that shot, go ahead. And this is my first encounter with a buck. Like actually, because the year prior, I shot a 1.5-year-old doe fawn. First deer ever. I was like stoked. Boom, miss. Dad's like, well, that was a hard shot. Even most grown men would have missed that. I'm like, okay. Next thing I know, here he comes across the lake dam. Little Bascarac Forky, 25 yards. Boom. So literally mobile hunting has been a huge part of my life. And not even mobile hunting.
It's essential.
You buy one stand, you got 300.
Like, exactly.
I would trade every single trail camera I have for the rest of my entire life and keep my mobile stand.
Oh, for sure.
And so
Sticks made it Sticks made it so sweet.
For real. So like from like 9 years old, carrying in that 7,500 pound buddy stand to now, I mean, I've always been big. Like I'd carry in lock-ons and throw them up. And then like 2019, I was like, you know what? I've got the money. Like this mobile hunting is really taking off. I'm just going to go ahead and I started modding my stuff. Ever since then, man.
You won't go back?
No, the last 4 best bucks I've killed in the last 6 or 8 years, first time in or have been on a mobile set.
On a sets.
It's key.
Yep.
Absolute key.
I mean, it's so much easier to be able to go, okay, I can get in that tree. And that's the thing about the sticks.
I can hunt, this high, or I can go 20 feet high. Like I've literally killed some deer 11 feet off the ground. They have no idea I'm there.
Yep, no idea. Well, just because they're not used to having something in there.
It's just like,
you go in that
surprise.
Back there. They have no idea that you like a human's even close to that. Because they're in a lot of these areas, which like that's kind of what's made public land kind of hard though, in a sense. Because there are people doing that in public land, and they are kind of pushing these deer to central areas.
And that's kind of the way you have to treat that over there, because if you don't want somebody to hunt your spot, take your stand down, or
And I've done it. Okay, this is how I do it as far as public land goes. Like I'll take in sticks, but I'll leave my stand up there, and I'll leave the top stick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take the next 3 of them down.
That's kind of what I've been thinking, because
and people see it, and one, they respect it for the most part, but 2, most people are like, well, if they're seeing your stand, they know it's a good spot. I'm like, well, okay. If I'm not there on a Tuesday and they're there on a Tuesday, I don't care if you got 2 more sticks and you hunt out of mine. Like I don't care. Like
you go for it.
But it's like it's so much less prep too. You're not carrying in a climber every time. It's just like I don't even know how to explain it. Like the whole mobile hunting scene going from sticks to saddle hunting, the way people do that stuff now, and I like the climbers, but a climber, you're stuck to one type of tree.
Well, and that's the way I kind of feel. I hunt out of box stands, ladder stands, buddy stands.
Oh,
lock-ons, mobile stuff, and my brother's got a saddle, and that thing's a bee's knees. And that's the best thing that I try to tell everybody. If you want to be a killer, adapt everything.
Yes.
You don't just
that's
say, I'm a mobile hunter, I'm going to take this lock on. Try a saddle. I'm 300 pounds. I can hunt in a tree yay big.
Yeah, big. Yep.
And don't be a purist about anything.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we get it. I've actually had this conversation with a purist, which makes it even like funnier.
They're kind of Karens of the hunting world.
They are the Karens of the hunting world. I'm gonna call out Steve. He's kind of a Karen, but whatever.
Steve, you're an all right guy.
You're an all right guy, Steve. But anyway, he just longbow hunts, which is great. That's cool, man. Like that's hardcore.
Yeah, he is the hardest. He's going straight caveman.
Those dudes are the longbow hunters are to me they are the purest.
I love them. I love them though because they're like
beasts.
You know, we talk about
they're beasts.
You know, oh, you're a rifle hunter, you're a crossbow hunter, and these guys are like, you shoot.
Oh, dude,
you shoot. Why do you have cams on your bow? Why are you shooting pins? I'm like, sorry, I'm not a man enough.
Yeah, that's what it is. You got to be man enough to say I'm not man enough. But yeah, no,
one day I'd like to after I kill another 17 wall hangers.
I took him crossball hunting. Okay, had an absolute. He didn't want to admit it. The whole 30 minutes going home. I'm like, so is it good? He goes, oh yeah, it's a good time. And finally, after about 5 more mentions of it, he's like, all right, dude, look, I had a good time. I had a real good time. He's like, I've just been kind of playing down. He's like, you gonna longbow hunt me? I'm like, no, man. No, I ain't longbow hunting. I was like, I can't do it.
I'll shoot the hay bale in the
I
backyard.
was like, yeah, I'll go way over. But I think I might pick up into it a little bit this year just because it's just another thing.
Well,
but that's what we made the show about, dude. Like,
most definitely.
Hear everybody's thought process on it, why they do what they do, how they do it. You know, it's like if you watch the podcast, you're going to have knowledge that you would have probably never heard. And I'm not interviewing the biggest, baddest of the people that have all the sponsors and all. I mean, if they wanted to come on the show, cool. But everyday hunters, people that have learned land, that, you know, they're forced to learn land. In a sense, you know, when you don't have a 700, 800 acre lease to go hunt, you know what I'm saying? Or you don't have a 1,000 acre lease, or you're not going to an outfitter, you're not going to some of these places.
Absolutely. You're
forced to adapt 1,000,000%. And what me and you might see might be, I might have the same type of buck on my farm that you do. And I would have never known how to hunt him if you didn't tell me that's how you did it.
Absolutely.
And that's crazy to me. We don't talk about that.
Yeah. I feel so fortunate to be here talking with you. And we've BS'd for the last 6 or 8 months ever since I met you, you know, getting on
period.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said earlier, I was spoon fed, but that's not that's downplaying myself because I put in the work in the sheds. I mean, I'm ate up of sheds, like
this was that
flipping
shed
crazy.
This is a shed off of a Pier Giant. We're going to show you guys in just a second.
Yes.
He was, what do you think, how old he was?
That was my bad. I should have had the teeth pulled. I would say that deer was every bit of 6 years old. Just the way he carries the mass and everything like that.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that easily.
Because that's what I think. I think about 4, they start to really pack on that mass, and that deer's got. I've never seen anything like it.
He had 2 years of mass. Yeah, he had 2 years of mass, easy.
And that's like I said. I say I'm spoon fed, but you know, I put in the work and I do this, and it's every single day.
Well, you're spoon fed knowledge. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I guess
that's the way to explain that.
Yeah, that's the way I should have put that. Is you know, I'm surrounded by 2 guys that have hunted together for years. They've been there for me since I was day one. I honestly think that my Uncle Wayne has been there just as much as my dad has.
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
On every recovery. And, you know, the thing about both those guys is, you know, my dad had a neighbor as a mentor. My uncle had his uncle as a mentor. So those guys, they were learning from the true woodsmen.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Those guys learned as kids. They started, you know, killing big deer before big deer were cool. And that's... You know, they had it's just like all older guys. They had such a bell curve because you were going out there to hunt. And you were killing forks and spikes and not playing the wind. Those guys are like, hey, if we set this up on this downwind edge of a bedding area, we're going to have a bigger deer. So that's, they just like.
Without the mentors, we wouldn't have any of the knowledge. We wouldn't even have any of the gadgets.
Man. Even with YouTube and all that stuff, like you got the Mark Drurys and all the, you know, all the guys.
Dude, Midwest Whitetail Boys, all them guys. You know,
like
and they shoot giants.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and say they don't. I'm like, they're fortunate enough to have some of those properties.
And those guys are just
awesome.
But they're, you know, that's the thing that I love.
My favorite's Dan Infant.
Oh, hands down. And just like Dan, he's not afraid of competition.
He's not afraid of it. He embraces it.
Yeah. If you can figure out where he's at, he'll meet you at the parking lot and be like, see it dark. Who's going to kill him?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But those dudes, like you said, like your uncle and your dad, those were the dudes that pioneered what we get to hunt now.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, Dan reached out to me, and I've reached out to him, and we've had a few texts back and forth as far as on Facebook and whatnot, which is was like I fan kitted out.
Dude,
like,
I
I'm
mean,
not
you
gonna lie,
thought you hit the holy grail. I was jacked for you.
Dude,
like, I was
it was
getting
cool.
sweaty
Like,
palms and everything.
Dude, I was freaking out. I was like, dude, Dan Infalt said he likes what I'm doing on my page. Like,
Absolutely.
wait, what? I was like, whoa, what? And he's been, we're not like best friends or nothing, but like, it's just cool to have somebody like him go,
Yeah.
I like what you're doing. He told me to get some more followers, get some, things up, and I'd love to come out there and be on the show at some point,
Yeah,
I'm hoping.
Most definitely. That's like,
awesome.
I had a guy, I reached out to him. His name's Jason Michael. He was on the Exodus Outdoor Gear.
Okay. Yep.
Podcast. And I reached out to him, and I was like, man, I love what you're doing. Like, you're the white-tailed gypsy, like the drifter, like, dude hunts nonstop going from point A to point B and couch surfing. And he's like, man, I appreciate you taking the time. He's like, I checked out your page. He goes, it's evident you love what you do. I'm like, I really do.
And that's the thing.
I wake up in the morning to get that paycheck to go buy mineral and fiddle fart with deer.
And it's wild, you get to that point where, kind of where we are in our I guess I should say careers. I mean, I guess they are careers as far as hunting. It's just the easiest way to say it for me.
Yeah.
But when we get to those points like we are in our careers, watching some of these other dudes that are just wild at what they do. Dude, I'm a huge fan of hunting beasts. I'm a huge fan of the hunting public. Those dudes do things that like make you second guess things you've done your whole life. Like, wow, I never thought of that. I never thought of hunting a creek bed.
And that's where I fault is I'm too scared to get out of my comfort zone because I'm just if I push that envelope, he's gone.
Well, on your private farm, that's what I was telling you earlier, man. When we go public land this year, you're going to have some times where it doesn't hurt your feelings to pressure those spots.
I'm going to turkey hunt them. Yeah. I'm going to be like, I'll keep inching.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it essentially is. I've watched those dudes get out of stands, walk on the ground around a ridge and meet a deer that's coming back around. You know what I'm saying? And like, you don't want to do that on your homeland, your private land, because you're like, I might screw that up.
That's what I was just telling Dalton. I was like, man, from opening day till like the 25th October, I was like, I'm going to be pounding public. Like, I've already dropped 1,500 pins on Onyx. I just, as soon as, keep getting these 50-degree days, maybe toward closer to fall, maybe, hopefully. And
dude, I'm hoping this year, like, everything was out early food last year. I don't know how it was for you, but I think beans were out of our field by before October. I want to say it was like maybe the third week, and the beans were already out.
It's like been, they had an early harvest, and we're done. Everybody was done by the first day of gun season.
Yes,
and then this year, they just started planting corn in the last 2 weeks. I'm so jacked for this season. I'm gonna shoot a 200 incher this year, dude. I hope you've got the potential.
Dude, there's one in there that's. He's dumb big, and like whatever. Even if I'm, me, I'll hunt a 140 inch deer.
Oh, absolutely.
It's hard to pass that up. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I just want to be in that realm now. I want to get into that point. If the neighbor shoots a 150 inch deer that comes off off the property that I'm hunting, I can't say my property, but the hunt property that I hunt. If he wanders on and the neighbor gets a 150 incher, he's going to be ecstatic.
Exactly.
And so that to me is still really cool. But it makes it. Getting big bucks to sanctuary on your property is saying something about what you're doing, and just for them to be there for the most part of their that tail end of their life, that says you're doing the right thing. That to me is what shows you that you've adapted to that point. You've learned enough to where you've got him to where he feels comfortable.
Yeah, and that's
a hard thing to do.
I'm so thankful and blessed with between my family having that farm and having all the resources and equipment and stuff, that we can really dial down, fine tune our management strategy and just go to it and be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And, when the time's right, we implement that. And it's ever evolving, changing, habitat diversity.
Well, it's like
and,
you said, you guys do a lot of that. You've adapted that perspective on food plots.
Absolutely.
That's something. And we talked about that 4 or 5 months ago, when we was talking about food plots and whatnot. I'm telling you, dude, that whole what I've learned as far as keeping them big bucks out there, in my opinion, and you're living proof of it, is those late season food plots.
Oh, most definitely.
Those late seasons are if you've got a chicory, a clover, an alfalfa, something that's in there where it gets that little sweetness to it, or whatever.
Hands down.
Dude, it's hard for them bucks to stay out of.
And that's the thing. And you've got to do your due diligence. And that first little cold snap in the end of September, that's when your 2.5-year-old deer die. Just go hunt public.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go marching into your rut funnel,
See, that's something that I don't rut funnels. I know it sounds really weird.
Are we going to talk terrain? Because I love this.
Terrain. Okay, let's talk terrain for a second. Hands down, best area to hunt, in my opinion, dry creek bottom, pinch, around a lake.
Yep.
Like if you can find that, or a river, and find a low spot in the river, leading up to a food source, dude, you will not find bigger bucks in that area.
Well, that's what we've got, a spot that we call the cow pasture. And it's like,
dude, there's big bucks getting killed on cow pasture.
It's like 200 acres of this pasture, and the old boy takes his old second gen Dodge every morning at like 8 o'clock, boop, 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 honking on the horn, like calling them cows up. And you'll just be sitting in this stand. And what it is it's an inside corner. His kind of, his
here,
corner comes.
Actually, here. I've got this really cool thing. Grab that pen.
All right, we can do this, bud.
We'll talk a little strategy.
And,
let's get set up here real quick, and I'll switch over to this cam. This is, honestly, everybody says that they like this the best out of all the things that's on the show. Is this little easy, it just shows people exactly what their property, if your property looks like this, or it's similar, you're about to learn
absolutely
firsthand how to walk it.
And I mean, they're everywhere. And honestly, until we went and hung this stand,
I gotta make sure this thing's clear.
Until we hung this stand, I didn't pay any attention to it, but I guarantee you, everybody's got millions of these, and just maybe doesn't even pay attention.
Nah, this is the right one. It's blurry right now. I don't know why.
I'm not an artist by no means, but I'll try this.
I don't know why this is so blurry. Huh. Did I grab the right one? I have another one that's a 4K one. I might have grabbed the wrong Logitech here. Real quick. No, that's the good one. I don't know why it's blurry. Sorry, y'all, for who are watching. You're about to see this get crazy for a second. Yeah, maybe. Okay. This little thing kind of... No, it's still super blurry. Let me switch back and then go... Nope. It's still blurry. I don't know why that's going so blurry right now.
But basically, we've got this couple 100-acre cow pasture, and it's just a sliver, probably 25, 50 yards wide ridge here. And all it is, the deer aren't wanting to come out here and be exposed in all these little draws and ridges and stuff. So they're just basically cutting this corner, going into this big clear cut back here. And
yeah.
It's as simple as that. You've got this creek bottom, just like you said, it's all dried up here. And it just, it's simple as that. Like this little travel corridor. It's just like, it's literally ridiculous at some of those spots to get overlooked.
Well, okay, so we talk about spots that are overlooked, and it's like, honestly, the spots that are overlooked are usually the spots that kill the biggest deer. That guy that killed that one out of, would have been Illinois, I think, new world record. Mm-hmm. Non-typical. From what I heard that story, they put him back in a spot that they weren't necessarily keen on hunting, and that deer walked through.
Most definitely. And the guy didn't even really honestly know what a big deal it was until somebody reached out and be like, you need to get good pictures of that deer. You've got something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what was it? 300 and it was 300 something inch.
Oh, absolutely.
That's incredible. Dude. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. And you look at the difference, over those years of, we talk about, honestly kind of being spoon fed. We and you both are kind of spoon fed in that sense, where we have those farms where we can dedicate time for it. Lot days. I'm going to go hunt there then.
Absolutely.
If it's not that time, I'm not in it. We're lucky. We're lucky in that sense.
Oh, most definitely.
And blessed in that sense. It's great. For those of you that don't have that option, you can treat public just like you can treat private. I mean, the honesty about the public is you've got a lot of land usually when you're playing with public. So, when you see somebody parked in those areas, in certain areas, go throughout that season, watch throughout the summer. Where are people parking? Where are people looking? And then look at it on OnX, or look at it on, whatever app you use, Hunt Stand, whatever it is that you decide to use. Look at those and then try to kind of pinpoint where you think somebody would walk down it.
Because that's kind of where I'm like,
Then look at the funnels away from it.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the transition I'm trying to make, is to where, I've really, like I told you earlier, prior to this, I've really fine-tuned, not so much trying to beat it to death, hunt every day of the season, but start hunting when the time's right. Go in when the iron's hot and strike. Then,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I'm really trying to pinpoint this public land, because that's
Public's
you stare at the same farms all the time, and you get too complacent. That's exactly
dude,
what it is.
That's what happened to me last year.
I'm trying to get my brain working to where I go to a brand new piece, and I'm like, this looks nothing like I've ever hunted before. Let's start putting miles on. Like,
yeah, and well, okay, so you talk about that whole complacent thing. That, dude, I don't even got words for that. That is why I did not shoot that deer last year. The buck that I was after last year. I'm 100% sure that's why I didn't capitalize. I was in a competition. Me and a buddy, we talked about that. It was in a competition for that quest hunt last year, and we ended up getting, I think, 24th or 25th. I can't remember. I think it was 24th overall, which wasn't bad. You know what I mean? Especially for Missouri, there's some 200-inch deer.
Absolutely.
There was 200-inch deer almost.
Well, that's what the guy from my hometown, Patrick Thompson.
Whitetail Strategies is.
I think it was Nemo Ridge Runners or something.
Yeah, they got some big deer.
Him and Kylie, they took first place. I think it was the year before last, and both those guys are just flat out monster killers.
Yeah. Well, they probably got some good ground in there, in genetics and years.
Yep,
and years.
and Patrick, to the T, nobody can knock him because he's out there right now. Well, yesterday he was drilling beans, putting in the work.
Yep. I mean, I'm lucky enough to hunt a farm that I really don't have to put in a bunch of food source work. Mm-hmm. It's more minerals and just establishing areas for them to be dominant.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something, if you don't know anything about getting makeshifting areas to be dominant areas for bucks. That's something I kind of honed in on the last couple of years. I've learned quite a few really cool little secrets. I don't even want to be really secrets. It's a bad way to say it, but insights on how to get a buck to be aggressive in your area. It's almost an art, where you can do minerals, you can do food plots, you can do, have all that set out, and still not have big bucks on your property because it's not a spot for them to want to be. They don't like fawns, they don't like does, they don't like any of that.
You just got to have everything secluded and just right for him.
Yes, and you can have a 150-acre property and make 3 spots like that on your property.
Oh yeah,
I've had people go, no way, and I'm like, yes, you can. I've done it. I've got photos of 3 separate spots in areas where I made just literal horizontals where they're just 30, 40 yards off of an area where deer travel a lot, but it's in between his big bedding, that mineral, or not mineral, but that rub is 20 yards off, and it's far enough to where he's not worried about walking to it, but yet it's right there on that path. If one comes by, he's going to notice it.
Yep.
And dude, I'm telling you, I had the buck that I shot here this last year. He was in there with a buck that was every bit of 150s, 160s, real wide, probably 20-something inch wide deer. And I'm telling you, both of those deer lived maybe 400 yards from each other for most of the year. I had 11,000 pictures of just those two.
You don't cross your line, I won't cross mine.
They didn't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you've got a property where you can do that, and this is like where I'm getting at with the whole public land thing. If you're new into this public land thing, you got to look at the land for what it was, not for what it is now.
Exactly.
So all that land was bought up small farms for the most part. From most of the public land that I hunt was small farms prior. Mm-hmm. And so you got to literally pick apart what would have worked if that was a 200-acre property, and what somebody would have done in that 200 acres, and then so on and so forth down the line, all the way around it. And we've had really good luck. Me and my buddy Jeff have really good luck in these public land spots, better than most people do, because we've taken the time to sit there and go, we don't use any of it. You can't, for one, but you can't even put trail cameras out. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he'll sit there and tell you, like, that first one we did with him, he was talking about one of the biggest things he did was, go with those dry creek beds, or one of those areas where there's tons of traffic. He goes, you don't know if that's traffic of one deer coming through there 100 times, or if that's 100 deer coming through there one time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he did the whole, I find a spot where they're crossing a lot, and I'll scrape the sand flat, and that's my trail camera. I'll come back in 3 days, and if there's 50,
that was gold.
Dude, like, everybody, how many people commented on that, just that one thing? And I'm like, dude, I never even, and I've been hunting with him for 3 years now. And I'm like, why did you just now say that to me, man?
Why didn't you show me that
day one? I had no idea. I'd never even thought of that. Like, never once thought of that. And so that's how, he was sitting on in public land areas, hunting big bucks because he would do little things
That's what
like
I'm
that.
starting to figure out. There's a lot of John Eberhards of
Dude,
the world.
if you can be comfortable on public, you're going to be the beast hunting anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And he does the same thing. He goes to his family farm, his 200-some acre farm, and they get upset because he'll go in there for a day and shoot. They'll be hunting it for 2 weeks. He'll go in there in a day and shoot a 140-inch 8-point.
Cakewalk for him because he's been busting it out on public for
he's
2
like,
months.
This is easy. And so that's what I mean by people get out there and hunt that public land because it will make you an absolute animal on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find new respects. You'll find things out that don't hurt you on your own land. And on top of it, you're out there helping others. You're out there getting other people to understand what you do. And if there's 5 of you, guess what? There's probably 3 out of the 5 are going to get good bucks instead of 1 maybe.
Exactly.
And so and you know, I've learned things from all kinds of people out there. You know, just wild, like, wow, I never even thought about that, you know. And I think that's for me, you know, that's why I started this podcast. It's like that for me is just so rewarding, being able to sit there and go, oh, that's smart, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why didn't I do that? Like,
I mean, honestly, like I've been listening to podcasts for the last 2 or 3 years, and I wish that I probably should go back to square one and get me a notebook.
It's key.
Just start writing that down.
Each season, like you were saying earlier, you know, you said, I think, you know, a certain buck, even a buck like this, you know, who's pretty patterned. If you bump something one time, he might forever move that. He may not leave that area, but he forever might move that pattern. Now you're staying, like you said, 75 yards off.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. And them old bucks, they're not going to leave. They're just going to get more. They're going to get more silent.
That's what I've learned. You know, is it's not one and done usually.
No,
you've got 2 chances. If you don't kill him a second time, sayonara.
Sayonara. Yeah, he's probably. Yeah. And what's wild is, you know, he may not move off your farm.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about those 3 sections on the farm that I hunt. You know, I'm telling you, there was 3 in there last year, at least 3 that were on the docket for coming off there. We had the Voldemort buck, the Uncle Buck, Evander, and the Bully. Or no, I take that back. The Bully wasn't on there last year. I don't know if he got shot or not, but he's a big, heavy 9, just big body buck. He was a boy, dude. He'd fight anybody too. But they were all over 140-inch deer, or at least close to 140-inch deer is what I was guessing, you know, and he ended up being, like I said, 138 and some change. And so I was pretty on the nose as far as, I'm not the best judger out there, you know, when it comes to seeing racks on a, you know, trail cam, but I'm telling you, dude, they all stayed in their respectable areas, really didn't. I mean, there was fights. I did hear it, you know, early in the morning. You know, I probably heard 6 or 7 fights last year. I mean, it was wild to me to see the only time that they came off a lot of those spots were cruising. They were older bucks. Absolutely. And that's why I try to explain to people, it's not just that we're chasing giant racks. It's getting your property to a point for me where, you know, that happens. We talk about shrinking. Bucks shrinking their home range.
And that's the good thing. You know, we've talked a lot about November. That's the good thing if you're an opportunist.
Yes.
But like if you got him patterned September and he lives to December, January, boom, right back on a pattern.
Yep.
You know, all big buck killers, I guess, other than us, like hate November. And I'm just like, if you don't get him killed early, yes, I can see where you like have an anxiety attack.
I don't even get to that point. Like I don't know. I've just kind of set myself back to that. You know, if it happens, awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I get to the point where like I'm to that point in my career where I'm like, dude, I just want to see that thing on the hoof. You know,
and
that's
the way
like,
I've become. Like
awesome.
When I was younger, I used to just get so paranoid. I'm like, oh my gosh,
am I going to screw it up? It takes away.
Absolutely.
And
now I'm like, you know, thankfully, these 2 deer, first time I was able to see them on a hoof.
You haven't got to see these guys. This dude's this is a slammer. I mean, the mass on this dude is incredible.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like, I hate taking hero pics.
That thing is huge.
Because I'm a big guy and I can't make big deer look big. Like,
that dude is insane. And he scored. He was 160 on the nose. Wasn't it?
160 and an eighth. Yep. And that's the same deal. You know, Waylon was right there with me, and we killed that deer on. I mean, one of our just.
We'll have absolute. Him, well, you'll be back when he's done.
Yeah,
I think. Yep. Well, whenever he gets done, but
that one, Waylon was with me, and that's
your boy. Yeah.
Yep. He said, "You got him, Daddy. You killed the daddy deer." I said, "Yes, I did. Shot him at 20 yards."
Oh,
I'm telling you, man, and that's just a textbook hunt. You know, I took my boy. He took a little nap and ate some snacks in our box stand, and the best thing about that is a food plot that everybody goes to kill their first deer. Like, it's an unspoken rule that Waylon would kill his first deer out of that stand. And that's just, that was the first buck he was with me to. So it all ties. And I mean, it almost chokes me up talking about it just because it's just so awesome. Like,
well, we always talk about like little things when it comes to hunting world. And I think that's the one thing that I probably cherish the most when it comes to the hunting world is the fact that it does do that to you. I've done the same thing where I've had my little one in there with me, and she's over there putting on face paint and like looking ridiculous. You know what I mean? And you're like, let her have. She's having a ball, dude. Like, I don't even care if I see anything tonight, or shoot anything tonight. But when it does come all together, dude, it's almost impossible to change.
And that's what I've always given my dad a hard time, because I'm like, why don't you hunt hard anymore like you used to? I mean, he does. Like, this last year, I think he hunted 3 weeks straight.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot.
He, I can't remember what it was. This one of the last days of October, he sent me a picture, and he's like, it was a broken arrow, and he went like full down the rabbit hole into the high of FOC. So he's shooting like a 650 grain arrow.
Oh man,
heavy
setups are pretty awesome. Though.
Yeah, and same deal. He pinned this buck's shoulders together. He's like, I stuck him at 10 yards. Sound like he did the death run down this hill or whatever. I was like, man, awesome. Here I am. I'm a truck driver, so I'm like working and doing this. I'm like, gosh,
I wish I was out there.
Like, and that's what I was like, you know what? Like, Dad deserved that because, like I said, and I used to give him crap, but he's like, you know what? He's like, all you boys are killing deer and stuff. He's like, I've had my fun. And like to see Dad kill that buck, like you could tell he was jacked.
Yeah.
And that's like, I got to thinking, I was like, I'll never be like that or whatever. I'll be, like I'll hunt during the week. And then like the older Waylon gets, I'm like, I will literally not hunt this farm and run every single camera and do everything I have, and I will not step foot on it to make sure he kills the big deer. It's like, it's just passing the torch. So I'm like, man, I got 2 more years. Like, I got to really get it done. Like,
well, and you're doing the right thing by taking him out at that age. That's another thing that I talk about with the youth season portion, which I'm going to have you, Chad. My buddy Corey, and one other person, I think, coming up for that youth season portion I'm going to put together. It's a little youth season. I'm serious. Yeah, you can get you and your boy up here, and he'll be able to talk on the microphone.
He'll tell you all about Big Daddy Deer and Mama Does.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. But see, that is what he's gonna grow up in life and have the same conversation with somebody like we're having right now. Doing that same thing.
And that's my one goal. I don't care if I fail on every aspect of life. If he can come out to be a decent human and treat people like with respect. It doesn't matter if he goes whichever way in life. If he becomes a PETA animal lover, at least I'll know I did my job. On that aspect, and trying to entertain him in one of the best hobbies, in my opinion.
Well, he can learn. I mean, and you say the whole PETA thing. Maybe he is part of PETA, but he'll sit there and go, look, this is why they do what they do.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
I can't force him to stay in this lifestyle, but he'll know. Hey, my dad, he used every single ounce of everything. He exhausted his all his resources into make sure that this deer was properly taken care of. He never went out and killed 17 deer and just let them all lay in a road ditch.
Right. And like with the kids, we've got a generation that I feel like that just is getting further and further from going outside.
Most definitely.
And don't get me wrong, video games are cool. They're fun. Those things are fun.
You know what I mean? It's sad because I feel like a couple years ago when that Pokemon Go thing came out, I feel like that was the first person. I feel like that was one reasons people had to go outside.
Yeah.
I'm sure same with you. When we were kids, we would literally ride the wheels off our bikes until our parents had to drag us in. And now it's like everybody wants to sit inside. I'm just like,
and
all right.
I took what's his boy's name? Oh, I can't think of the top of my head. Anyway, not important. We went on a hunt together, and he was kind of bored at first, and I was telling him, I was like, man, once the sun comes up, and these deer start moving, you'll have fun. And we ended up seeing 9 deer that morning. One nice little buck, and he was like, "You gonna shoot?" He was so jacked for me to try to shoot a deer. I'm like, "Oh, I'm not gonna shoot him. He needs some time to grow, And we went around, and then ended up seeing a nice deer, and he was just so like taken by the moment of being that close. He's like, I didn't think we was gonna get that close.
Got that
wild
adrenaline dump, yeah.
And then I'm like, he's like, I think next year I'll be ready to hunt, because that year he didn't hunt. He just wanted to go. He just wanted to see what it's about. And it's like I take my nephew. I call him my nephew. He's actually my cousin, Braden. I take him every year on Thanksgiving. It's like the one thing he looks forward to every Thanksgiving when he comes up here. It's coming up here and we hunt. And we haven't capitalized yet. We haven't had that moment where he's actually got to shoot one. But we're working on it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it just gets him out of that space. It just puts you in a different headspace, I feel like when you're out there, and then, you know, the harvest itself, teaching your kid about that, you know, when you're gutting that deer and you're breaking that deer down, you know, and you teach them every piece of meat that comes off there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they're like, okay, that's cool. You know, I don't have to, if I have a rough time in life, I know that I can go hunt.
Yeah.
You know
absolutely.
what I'm saying? Like it's such a beneficial thing. Plus it opens a door to gun safety, opens a door to all kinds of outlets when
definitely.
it comes to hunting. And it's just like, I feel like we need more people to understand that. It's not,
Yeah, absolutely.
it keeps the population in check. It's not just hunting, you know, if it wasn't for guys like me and you, people would be in car wrecks every day
Mm-hmm.
from deer. You know what I mean? And they don't want to see it that way a lot of times, but that's the hard truth about it. You know, and
most definitely.
it is. It's the hard truth about it. You know, I don't know how many deer we harvested last year in Missouri. It was I think it was record breaking last year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure during
Mm-hmm.
gun season it was the biggest. I think it was like, I can't remember. It was an outlandish number, and I'm like, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Because for one, we're not letting that same gene pool just do its thing.
And you know, it's a double-sided card with that too,
Mhm.
because the more deer that are getting killed, the more deer there is.
Yes.
You know, like just on our farms, I don't know that I can count on one hand in the last however many years I can remember that I've ever seen deer get hit by cars. Well, in the last calendar year, there's been 3. And like I was telling my dad, I was like, yes, that's very unfortunate. But I said, have we ever seen deer get killed? And we've been saying for the last year, I really think that the population's doubled. And it truly is.
I'd say the population's
it's kind
definitely
of good
I
and
think
bad. Like I feel bad. I feel terrible for people, but also people wouldn't drive 70 mile an hour down a 2-lane blacktop. Like some things could be.
Yeah, it could be
avoided.
averted. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it most definitely can. And you might be right. Like that's another thing per farm.
Mm-hmm.
They might you might think that there's that many, but it's because you've got what they want.
Exactly.
And honestly, they don't have a need to go out into the road.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that people don't understand about the whole food plots in winter. And like
it's kind of like cows.
Yeah.
Like if you're keeping your pasture maintained, there's no reason for them to get in the ditch.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that keeps deer off. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're putting plots, you know, further back off the road, why would they? Why would they have to cross the road? They're there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like there's so many aspects of what the hunting world does for me that I just can't find a negative.
And you know,
I think that's great for kids to have an
Absolutely.
outlet that doesn't have a negative. Personally,
the only negative is like you can literally file bankruptcy.
well, yeah, hunting can get pretty expensive. Yeah,
but that's like, you know, I mean, seriously, like, you know, I mean, everybody says it, but if you get a kid, you know, 11, 12 years old, why would you want to go out and venture into something that gets you in trouble?
Yeah, no, that's,
you know what I mean?
That's
like,
a huge thing. That's a huge thing. You know, I
like
know if my kids are hunting hard, they're not going to be out hitting hard drugs. I can tell you that because they ain't got no money.
Yeah.
And they got no money for it.
Yeah. And, you know, like, you know, and I feel like once you get into high school, you know, I guess you can sway one way or another if you get into sports and whatever your friends are doing. But like me, you know, I still hunted through high school and stuff. And then I guess right after I graduated, I reeled myself back in because I had a little bit more time and stuff like that. But if you can get them through, like, you know, the teenage years and keep them on the straight and narrow path, like as soon as they start getting a little bit of money, a little bit more time, and, you know, especially after they have a family and they're like getting back into it. I mean, like, you know,
I think you do have that period of where you grow away from it for a little while. There are people that stay in it pretty much there. I mean, I was one of those people. I would rather go hunt than I would do about anything.
Exactly.
And that's just because it was not that I'm like, because I'm a very social person. Like I don't have like I'll talk about anybody, but that wasn't what it's for me. You know, like just being out and hearing nature in itself and doing those things that, you know, nobody else is doing. Like that's the beauty of sitting in that deer stand and going, man, nobody even knows I'm here. No, like I got no worries, no nothing. Like it's just me and what walks through here.
I've got a spot that I hunt. It's like right along the Missouri River, and it's down in the thick.
It's just beautiful.
Anytime I go there, I'm like, Dad, this is where I'll be in case something happens to me. You're the only person in the entire world knows where I'm.
Yeah, my wife. I carry my iPhone just because it's a ping unless they need to find me. But yeah, no, I feel like we get away from that. You know, as we grow up, we let the things in life be hectic. You know, it's like we talk about the little things in life. You know, and hunting provides that, dude. Like hunting 100% provides that. You know, when you don't need a ton to hunt. It is nicer to be able to have things that make hunting easier.
Absolutely.
And that does cost money.
But it all comes with time.
Yep.
You know.
Right. You talk about paying your dues, you know, and like that's paying your dues.
And, you know, going back to the hunting public and stuff, you know, I think Jake, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, he went to Walmart.
Yeah.
And got that bow set up. It's $400 or $500. You know, you don't have to go out and buy some $1,200 prime or, you know.
You have to have strategy.
Exactly. That's what it is. Like guys are still out killing them with Marlin 30-30s, open sights. Like,
hey, dude, Marlin's one of my favorites.
Dude, I can't even imagine.
I killed my first deer with a Marlin 30-30.
Can you imagine the bucks that nobody ever heard about that were killed by old timers with that?
Probably
hanging in some bar somewhere.
That's what I'm doing here, man. Like there's a guy actually. It's coming on. He killed a buck in I want to say it's 88 of it. Huge deer. Nobody knows about it.
That's awesome. That's
nobody knows. It'd probably be the first time it's going to be seen ever, and it's big. I mean,
that's
it's
awesome.
It's huge, you know. And it's like I get to go. I'm fortunate if I get to talk with everybody like you and me, and we get to see these deer. Like this deer is so incredible. Like just to be able to see him on a channel, you know, or a show. It's like. You don't have to go to ATA. You don't have to go to those big buck shows. Not everybody gets a chance to go to Missouri big bucks. But you know what? Tune in here.
Yep.
We'll bring you big bucks every weekend.
I would love to take my bucks there, but I'm like the guy. I'm like, well, I'll have my boy with me. I don't want to haul these deer in and fight everybody. You know, same. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would want to take those, but they just don't want the hassle of it.
Yep.
You know, dragging deer in there and worrying about if something happens to it. Oh my gosh, I'd be destroyed.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, and you're spending $400, $500, $600 on a mount. You know what I mean? And it's typical, but. When you can go, and that's another thing. A lot of the guys that have come on the show, they're like, dude, it's great because, you know, I don't have to worry about that aspect. Like what you're exactly saying. You're like, I'm going one place, you know, thousands of people can see the same deer.
After your studio, this deer will probably never see the light of day until I have to build a new house.
Yeah. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
and that's fine because if people want to come out, you know, I am so proud to show the bucks off of my wall, you know, like it's a good thing that I don't have like a wife or anything because my whole house is a bachelor pad. I got 50-some sheds all around my living room, mounts everywhere.
My wife lets me put about anything I want. When I brought this guy home, she's like, "Where's that going?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not sure yet. I think about next to TV." She goes,
"Really?"
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She just kind of okay.
And that's one thing. That's one thing to be said too. You know, if you don't have a good spouse,
oh, dude, I got the best.
It's game over.
No, I got the best, dude. Like. I tell guys that all the time, like, your wife might be cool, but I'm telling you right now, mine's like a seasonal widow, and she accepts
it.
Like
she's
just
even
like,
imagine.
Yeah, go. Like she don't stop me at all when it comes to.
They have to be a rare breed as well.
It is.
Literally, you are. Like you said, you're going to be a seasonal widow. Like
10 years. It'll be 10 years we've been together. And come next January, will be 10 years.
The worst thing is they all start off cool, and then they go through the first fall and winter, and then into turkey season. They're like, "Are you home?
Are you coming to
spend
time with me?"
Monday through Thursday, I'll be there, honey."
No, mine's like she's like, I'll hang out with the girls and make cookies and watch TV, and she's a homebody, which is great to the extent. But I mean, she's at the same time she'll get out there in the field with me. Like she'll go sit a bow stand with me. She'll go sit a gun stand. Like we just get that time. We honestly, you know, we talk about life goals. That's
absolutely.
I think it's one of the things that made our marriage great is being able to just talk about those life goals. You know, when we're out there doing, you know, hunting or doing something, you know, and it's not that she's like a diehard at it. She's just enjoying the time, you know.
Absolutely.
She don't care. Like she don't care if it's by herself.
You know, she doesn't have to be the trigger man, but if she likes being outside and like, you know, we've talked. That's such the great thing about bow hunting is you can watch deer be deer.
Yes.
You know, they're not wigged out, and you know, if you don't want to shoot that doe. Okay, well, you probably got a doe family group or a doe and a fawn you can watch for 30 minutes just being deer, and it's so peaceful.
It is. You know,
like we talked, it's truly therapy.
It is. It's the great Fred Berry, you know. He said it'll cleanse your soul, dude.
Yeah.
It'll cleanse your soul.
I survived 9 months out of the year and lived through 3, like, to keep from ripping people's heads off. It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous. Like,
I mean, like, we talk about, you know, a lot of times on the show, you know, what is it that drives a person to do it? And just about everybody has the same thought process. Is it's the therapy part of it. Like, you know, you work hard, you do things, and there's a lot of this world that isn't fun, you know, and it's just something we don't, you know, kind of dropped on your head when you come out of high school. You're like, man, this really isn't that fun. Is what I thought it was going to be, you know.
Yeah.
But the one thing I can sit there and say time and time again is, I had a ball, even if I just sat there. A bad day or a good day in the office is not near as fun as a bad day in the woods.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big deal, you know, and being able to teach your kids to have that outlet instead of turning to something else. Like, that's another big thing for me when it comes to the woods. I love when I hear people talk about putting their kids in the woods and getting them out there because I'm like, if that kid's having a rough time, he knows he can or he or she, they can go out there and just sit.
Well, isn't it amazing
And
too?
think.
Like,
Even if you're just sitting there in a box blind on the ground, and you're like, you know what, I need a
Mhm.
beer today. I want to go sit and have a beer and just,
exactly.
I just want to relax. I don't care if I see anything, I don't care if I shoot anything. I just need that time.
And it's amazing too. Like, you get like the old famous meme on Facebook. Nobody ever remembered a day on the Xbox, but they remember the day hunting.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, literally,
100%.
I can go back to when I was 8 years old and
Yep.
tell you exactly what that felt like to shoot that 1.5-year-old doe at 7 yards. Like my dad, dad had a hell of a good hide on this tree. Like we were in this, there's like a little tree in front of me, and Dad literally, like, I was shaking so bad and froze because I was scared to move. Dad had to pick my rifle up and move it over the tree for me, and he's like, "Shoot that deer." I'm like,
Okay.
"All right." Like, I can remember that, and I was like,
Clear as like
yeah,
clear like it happened.
20 years ago.
Yep.
And I'm like, is Waylon gonna remember stuff? Is he gonna remember that
Oh, he
deer he
will.
killed with me at 3 years old? Or, I started dragging him to the woods to put up ground blinds when he was 1.5 years old.
My girls were
And
the
I was
same
like,
way.
man, he's gonna, like, whenever that clicks and he starts remembering stuff, I'd say here pretty soon, he'll start having those memories. I'm like, that dude has literally been with me since he could walk, and
Yeah.
I'll be able to tell him that. Like,
Yeah.
everybody else, you hear, some of our buddies started hunting at like 15, 20, 25. I'm like, Waylon's gonna be an OG.
I think I was young. I was young. I mean, I remember starting out coon hunting and doing things like that with my Uncle Wade, my Uncle
Mhm.
James, and carrying raccoons out. That's really what I was there for. They don't want to tell you that, but I was the one that had to carry stuff. But I mean, like, doing those things, I was so tired. I remember him waking me up during turkey season with pots and pans 30 minutes after falling asleep, just to mess with me. And it was like the funnest thing ever to just, he'd be like, "Oh, get up." And he'd be like, "We're running late." And I'd be like, "Dude, I feel like we didn't sleep at all." And I'm putting on clothes, and he's just standing there smiling, waiting for me to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd be like, "Oh, man, why'd you do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, go back to sleep. I'll see you in about
See, that's
5
like
hours."
the first. I mean, I'm sure I was hunting before I was 5, but like what really stands out is like my dad and like all of his buddies, like my uncle, and there was like 4 or 5 of the older guys. Like they had a lease that was like within a quarter mile of Iowa by Memphis,
Oh,
or just
dude.
north of Memphis, and like right there. And Dad always told me, he's like,
What's that big public land up there? There's a big one up
It
there.
is Rebels Cove.
Rebels
I
Cove.
just looked at it the other day because I was like slobbering all over it.
My buddy Chad wants to hit it.
Dude,
and
I want to too, really bad. It looks
we
really
all
good.
need to get together and go up there and scout.
And that's like, we had a stand like 200 yards away from the property line up, or from the Iowa border basically. And that's like, I just remember all the time, like we'd make weekend trips up there for rifle season and stuff like that. And I remember like all of us guys, well, them guys and me, like 4 or 5 year old me, like we'd stop at the KFC up there and eat dinner.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I remember little bits and pieces, and I'm just like, man, that was so cool.
Cool,
Like,
yeah.
my dad literally took me.
I remember eating zero bars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that noise was. I was on my freed up storage space. Finally got done downloading that.
But it's just like, little bits and pieces like that. And, the old Missouri check-in stations, like that was like, that was
bringing your deer up. I kind of miss that.
Dude, if we could do that, that would be so
really miss
awesome.
that. I do
It's like,
really
we've got
miss
a big
that.
collection of like the old leg tags in the garage.
Mhm.
And like Dad's got like this piece of baling wire that's like 8 feet long, or not like, a foot
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
It's just got like a whole bunch of leg tags on it. It's like, man, that'd be so cool to start that
You
again.
go up to the Shell station or whatever check-in station. you have in
Legit,
town,
like
you just see all the racks.
the OG
people drinking
social,
coffee up there.
social networking. yeah.
Yeah, before all that, like, I mean, like we missed some of those things. I think Dalton's got that Midwest hunting thing going on this year. I can't think of what it's called.
Oh, the public land challenge.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be up there a few days doing that with him. I'm gonna give away a spot on the show.
Mhm.
Whoever kills the biggest buck up there
That'd
during
be
that
awesome.
challenge, so they're gonna get to come in
I
the
think that could
following
be-
year, and it's gaining quite a bit of
I think it's
steam.
gonna be like a Wednesday, Thursday, a Thursday, Friday. I know for sure
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to make it up there one night.
I
and
think
just-
we're gonna try to me and
just hang
Chad if he
out.
can. If Chad can, we're gonna try to make it up together. If not, I'm
Mhm.
just gonna take the old truck hunting stuff up there and camp in the truck for the weekend.
I
But,
think that would be a freaking
dude, it's just gonna
blast.
be fun. I'm just
Especially
gonna
up
be
there where it's gonna be at.
Oh, during that mid period day, I'm just gonna be sitting down with guys and hearing what they seen that morning, and it's just
It's
gonna
gonna be
be
awesome.
fun talking, just good time. I have a couple more mics there. I'm gonna probably have at least, I think, where I can have up to 4 people sit and chat, and we're just gonna do it over campfires and eat breakfast and stuff, and then it'll be a fun little portion.
Dude, it doesn't even matter. Like, you get any type of, setup like that, it's just stories are gonna come out. It's just gonna be a blast.
We did it during turkey season. It was a ball. Like I've got some stuff that's gonna be coming out from turkey season. I did upload my opening day kill. I've got another one from youth season where me and my daughter, we didn't have any luck. Well, we did have birds.
Mhm.
Lots of birds come in. They just they weren't committing at that time. This youth season was rough. They just were not committing this year early at all. Which usually during the youth seasons when it's the easiest, in my opinion. I mean, I remember growing up and it was nothing to, but I think our turkey population too has kind of taken a hit.
Yeah, really big. I'm so thankful. Like, I mean, we've always kind of been into trapping and stuff like that. And like this year, like Waylon and I, we really picked up on it. We put our dog-proof coon traps out and we put it on them. And I'm so thankful that the MDC, I think we can start October 1st and go to the 31st. And then it almost runs up clear to the first week of turkey season next year for their spring portion. Like they lengthened it so far. I'm just like, just like, yes, we're going to put it on. I'm like,
that's something I've never done trapping like ever. I've been like thinking about trying to get into a little bit of it because on the farm, man, it's like, dude, I have raccoons.
Man, it's addictive.
I have
a little cat food and a marshmallow, and you can catch anything in the county. I'm telling you,
dude.
It's like crack for raccoons and possums. Like
really,
it's addicting.
Like I've never done it,
fun,
but I've done I've coyote hunted. I've never trapped for coyotes, but I've coyote hunted quite a bit. But I just want to get some of the coons and the coyotes off the property necessarily, and there's some big ones. I mean, I got some probably 30-pound coons.
Oh yeah, them little grizzly bears.
Dude, I've got one that literally hits the food plot every day at the same time, like the mineral site. When I start putting mineral out, dude, he hits it every day. Like he'll break a piece of salt or whatever I'm putting out there, and he'll just take it back. No, he just sit there, dude. He's got rolls, man. He's huge. I got pictures I'd show you. He's huge, but I just want to get some of those, like, because they're taking all the mineral half the time, and it's like it's almost wasted money, by putting it in there for the deer herd, but. Yeah, no, I've seen them. They're not even afraid to sit there with the deer and eat right next to them, too. Like, they don't even care. Like, they don't even care who's there, what's there. I had one crawl almost in my blind last year when I was early in the morning. I don't know what he was doing in there every morning before he came to eat, but he was going to the blind. I think he was looking for snacks.
Did you leave another butter in there?
Or something, yeah. I think, my kids or me or somebody left something in the blind, and he was just checking that blind in the morning.
Sounds like coons at the Mark Twain campground. You leave your cooler and it's going to be attacked.
Dude, he peeked. It was funny because I didn't have a zipper on this one. It was like I can't remember what blind I had, but it just had snaps. So it was quieter.
He was going
and dude, he literally he like a little human, man. He lifted that thing open. He poked his head in, and I scared me at first. And I was like, I didn't know what it was, and I looked down, and he's like looking at me, and he kind of gave me that thought, like, I don't know if he's gonna hurt me. And then he's like, nah, I ain't gonna find out. And he just put it back, and he
just closed it back.
Dude, he walked right out to the damn mineral pult that I was on. He just sat there and ate corn and little things. I was like, oh my gosh. I usually do a lot of sitting early when it comes to like September. So you got observation stands. Do you sit like before the season and stuff? I put out little corn just to kind of get inventory and stuff like that. Just kind of watch. But that's what I was doing, dude. I was sitting in an observation stand, and he was hitting that observation stand like every morning to see if there was leftovers in there of something. So,
just a kernel.
That's all he wanted, dude. He was just curious of what was in there. He must have got something in there at one point, but it was pretty funny. But I need to get rid of some. There's so many of them.
Right, absolutely. And that's the problem is, the coon hunters and stuff like that, they're still running dogs, but they tree them and go back home because, there's a fine line with them. They don't want to shoot it and waste it, but to China, the market for fur is gone,
Well, so it's not just the market, but like, we talked about this on a show before, the conservation and different predators, like we have an issue with predators and
big time.
People don't want to talk about it. And it's, when you take away certain things like, ears you just take a pair of ears of coyote in and you get some money for them and stuff like that, or whatever the case was. And you don't have any of those programs. Then you're putting everything into government CRP, which I got nothing against CRP. I think it does make great bedding. It does bring back insects for a turkey population and certain things like that, but it also has the other side that people don't want to talk about, and it is. And that's great for predators.
And that's literally what it is. It's everybody wants to talk about the decline. Okay, but what are you doing?
Well, when they I kind of got offended at that. They were talking about turkey population, and they were blaming it on the hunter shooting too many 2.5-year-olds. It's like, well, when the turkey population's not actually getting shot, and you've got less turkeys being killed, how is it the turkey hunter?
Exactly.
Let's talk about this. When you go in and log properties, and we're not seeing any of that. It's supposed to go back to projects, but what project are they going to? Because all that, like Honeywell and a lot of these other places that I used to hunt, They ain't got no crop in them,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I'm not sitting. I went up to Deer Ridge this last year, and the biologist that came from Iowa. There's a biologist there from Iowa who worked in Iowa before he came here, and he was so open and so. It was awesome. Like he literally told us where to go. He's like, we planted this. This is when it's going to be in. He goes, all you guys got to do is ask. And I was like, well, you're the only one that I've ever seen do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't got nothing against conservation. I think they do great things. But we got to talk about the bad things.
Exactly.
We got to talk about the negative. You can't just be perfect all the time. We got to stop the politics about it and go, okay, we screwed up here. Or we did this. You can't just stay pot committed, you know, and go, let's let this go all the way to the ground. Because that one, it just takes away the faith.
And that's the worst thing is I would rather see all conservation departments be more proactive than reactive. And I think that's government. I mean, you know, I can't say that they don't have the money because they're flying around in planes.
I look at when you talk about they don't have the money. I had a guy explain to me that the reason they didn't do, you know, crop in these areas because it's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, you can make money. What do you mean?
Just cash
lease
rent it. Yeah, absolutely.
Lease it.
Yeah, the farmer rolls in on the first
Tell
day.
him you don't want to take it out till November. He don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the guy, the
you,
ones
yeah, you knock off $20 an acre cash rent for him, and he'll, you know, or whatever, you know, whatever suitable for both of you.
And then you do the buyback program.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so up there at Deer Ridge, they did a buyback program. They bought back 30% of the crop that was put in by so that was 30% of the crop yield that was guaranteed that they were going to pay top dollar for.
Mm-hmm.
And to just buy it to not get harvested off there. So they would harvest 200 out of the 300 acre field that they were doing. They'd take 200 out of it out and leave 100 in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that did for the deer population last year?
Probably exploded.
Oh, dude, it was amazing. Like there was guys coming from all over that got in Deer Ridge last year, and it's big enough to house a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But there wasn't one person in there that wasn't like, man, this is great. Everybody was happy, and they did alfalfa, they did corn,
just the whole buffet.
There was like probably 20 or 30 different little micro plots that they'd put in there of corn,
mm-hmm.
where he worked kind of a deal out with, or I don't exactly know how they did the deal or whatever, but there were spots that you couldn't really necessarily harvest too easy. But they were just great little flats and pinch points.
Exactly.
And if they had leftover seed from that area or whatever the case was may be, they would go in there and they'd put it in there. And he was telling me, he's like, yeah, there's a few spots we didn't even ask him to do it. They just kind of did it, and it was cool. You know, it was worked out. And a buddy of mine killed a nice deer off of one of those little spots.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with him. It was great. You know, we come out and the biologist was just super open, super cool dude. We didn't have one bad thing to say about any of those dudes. And it was actually just super nice to have that.
It's almost relieving.
It is.
It really is.
Because you can see where your money's going at that point.
Oh, most definitely.
And like I said, I don't think the conservation's bad by any means. I think they're trying to do the right thing, but yeah, let's get past the politics. Let's be serious about this. Because if you want to let it be politics, it's going to ruin everything, and you're not going to have the income coming in. You know, it'll cease. It's just that's what our government's good at this point. They're just good at blowing our money.
Yep.
And it's, you know, people like me and you get tired of seeing it, especially when, you know, like I hunt, I don't know, probably 120 days a year. I mean, like out there, whether it's turkey season, fishing, doing something,
mm-hmm.
easily 120 days a year. And it's sad to watch some of these areas when I hunted a kid just decline. And watch them be in CRP for 10 years. And it's like, I used to kill turkeys out of this place every single year. It's a piece of public land. I triple birded there with two buddies. How many people you know triple bird ever?
Exactly.
We were sitting behind decoys. We were coming up over the hill. We had them gobbling, and they straight darted 200 yards, and we didn't know they closed.
Just game over.
Oh, dude, we sat down with the decoys in front of us. Like they were in front of us, and we couldn't, you know, we were 5 yards off the decoys. And we were shooting between them because we had no other. We was like, oh shoot, they're right there. We
mm-hmm.
sat down and then we back army crawled, and 3 toms come up over that field. I was like, left to right, boys, boom, 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 and it was sweet. Like it was sweet. Now you can't even. I haven't heard a turkey in that spot for probably 3 years now. I haven't even heard one in there. And I remember my uncle would go out there and he'd hoot one time and he'd just.
And that's the way Dad is. He's like, you know,
Sad.
I've gotten so burnt out on turkey hunting because it's not the 80s anymore. He goes,
Nope.
You would literally screw one bird up. He goes, you could walk not even half mile down the road, 300 yards and be on another one.
Yep.
And now it's like you'll have a group of 3 gobblers and if you screw up, they're done.
All 3 of them.
Yep.
And like this last year, this year, me and Britley had 5 different gobblers within probably 300 yards of us, 400 yards of us, all at different areas, but piling in there, just couldn't get them to shut up. And they'd hit a field, and they were just a different bird. Like, they were so cautious, so spooky. Just it's like they weren't worried about us. You know what I mean? They really weren't. The hens would walk by us and they didn't even get bothered. It was when they would go from transition to transition. They would go from a field to a spot that they had to walk through that was 4 foot tall. And it made it to where it changed everything about. I feel like it changed a lot about turkeys and what we know about them and what they do. When you're not doing the controlled burns, you're not doing a lot of that stuff.
That and every jackleg in America is grinding on a pot call on some gravel road when he does see them out in the field. You know,
it just makes everything so like rough. I mean, and I'm not saying that it can't be fixed. It could be fixed, and it's almost like a pride thing. Like, they don't want to be wrong, and it's like, dude, it's okay to be wrong. Like, it's okay to try something. That's what trial and error is. But if it continues to be an error, dude, you have to start something else, and I'm not saying that they're not building back, certain parts of what turkeys need, but you can't just go, okay, they need all of that.
Exactly.
And then not focus on anything else. I'd rather focus on 5 things at 30% than one thing at 100%, because you're just lack of.
They all play in the.
Yep. And eventually those 30% start, going up. They start being 50% effective. They start being 60% effective. It's we got to step back sometimes and, like you said, not play God. You know what I mean? It's not our choice.
Yep.
You know what I mean? With certain things and reintroducing this and doing that.
And that just falls into every aspect. If your deer population suffers,
you did something.
Yeah.
Like you did something and you need to figure it out. Like, I don't know where we got different there, where we strayed from that thought process.
Exactly. Whether it be out of your control or, God forbid, EHD wipes out everything.
Right.
You just, okay, I can't hunt this farm this year, or I can shoot a buck. I'm not going to go shoot 6 does off this farm this year. You have to play it how it's according, I guess.
100%. Yeah. 100%. And it's kind of hard to play it according. I mean, sometimes I can understand, because it is a lot of people. And that goes right back to that whole, I teach people how to hunt.
Exactly.
When I was a kid, I mean, the whole hunter safety course, I feel, is completely different than what it was.
Yeah, I think you can take the full thing online now.
I don't know. I haven't, my kids aren't to that age, where they do that. But, I mean, it's crazy. I used to go up to Palmyra, and I would go to the hunter safety course thing. I would think I went to it 2 or 3 times. Anybody could go, even if you had it, and just learn what was new that year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have any of that now. You got to go down to St. Louis or down to Big Group.
That's ridiculous.
And I just like that. You just made it that much harder. You just took another notch out of. People are going to go, well, I don't want to drive down to St. Louis. So therefore, you just took one hunter back out.
And going back to how my dad grew up. My grandma was a single mom raising 2 kids, and she was working, 3rd shift at the hospital as an RN. And my dad's neighbor, he didn't have a whole lot of money. So, you take that same instance, 40 years later, how do those kids get into hunting? If their neighbor hunts for meat,
right, but
they can't make it, 2 hours to St. Louis or something to have a group of 50 people? Just
all that, and if it gets canceled because there's not enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard people have that issue. They're prepped, ready to go. Only 12 people out of the 24 they need to have class.
I guess we've talked about it as well. Getting kids into hunting and stuff like that. But like everybody's just beating that same drum. But I think there is growing mentors that want to get kids into hunting.
I think that needs to.
But there's some aspects.
I think there needs to be a project for that.
Yeah. But there's some aspects, to where it's difficult to get kids in
100%.
Because you can take them during youth season till they're 15, but sometime between 11 and 15, they've got to get that hunter safety course. And
it's getting harder and harder for people to take, adults to take time off too, between sports and this and this.
Absolutely.
And this. It's like, okay, when am I supposed to take them? I got to have and then you got to pay for hotels and other things like that because it's early. It's just the whole thing. To me, is just like, okay, we got to get back to, we got to come back a little bit. Like, it just feels like, I don't know how to even explain it. It just feels like we're us as hunters like me and you, we have to do our part. And everybody else that's like us, we have to do our part. We know how things get mixed up, and I'm not saying it's intentional even. I'm not even saying what's happened with the hunting community and that, with conservation. I think a lot of it is unintentional, and it's just leaving bad taste in people's mouths.
Absolutely.
And once a bad taste there, it really is hard to recoup that.
It's just like breaking trust with somebody.
Yeah.
It's kind of in a different instance. And, I kind of felt guilty the last few years because I don't really have, kids to take hunting. But I was like, you know what? It has to do with fishing. And
there's so many clubs.
Absolutely. And I was like, you know what? You're going to do your part because you've got a son that's your part. I was like, I don't need to go out and find.
Well, and the thing about your son too, like he's going to have friends.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you got to prepare yourself for when, it's like, hey, Dad, can we bring Mike today? Heck yeah, bring Mike. Let's do it. Let's bring him.
I would eat that up.
Yeah, and that's your part. Us that have kids. I watched Dalton this year go to those youth hunts and do those extra things, and I'm like, dude, that's really cool.
And Riker's going to come up. I mean, that boy is a bloodhound already.
Dude,
he's just
breathes.
Like I can't wait to get him and Waylon together because they're both the same.
You got to meet my buddy Chad's boy Declan.
Dude, I think those three. Those three kids together could be terrible.
That kid is a killer.
That's what my brother said. He's like, I just know Waylon's going to be like one of those kids to kill at 140 as his first deer. I was like, I hope he does.
I guarantee it. It's all about what you put into it.
Absolutely.
It's up to you. You know what I mean?
And I don't want to come right off the rip and ruin him. But I'm like, hey, it's okay.
It might be good.
It's okay to shoot 120-inch deer also, son. Like, because that's how my dad's kind of.
I think at all that age, though, they're going to do that.
Right. Because that's how my dad is. He's like, well, we don't want to ruin him. Quit talking about age and score. I'm like, Dad, he asked Mom what that deer scored.
Yeah.
He's 3.
Yeah.
And
so he knows.
Yeah, he knows. But I'm just going to be like, hey, don't be too cool. Like if this deer comes in and you're just jacked and you're like almost about to fall out of stand.
I had a buddy tell me how he had that issue one time. He's got I don't know what happened there. Might have got too hot. Took a pause. Let's do it again. Oh, I might be getting low on battery. Uh-oh. We may have to cut it short today, guys. Anyway, we're going to have boy back up again. We're going to have you back up again.
Sounds good. We got one waiting at the taxidermist.
At the taxidermist, and then we've got some other stuff going on. But we'll be back up. You're going to be up early, probably in October sometime frame, if not before. We're also going to be doing dream season stuff, so that will help. But yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on the show and getting out here.
I just hope I didn't bore everybody.
No.
I don't know how long we've been going.
Oh, dude, I don't know either. I haven't even. It's 1:00, so we've been going for 2.5 hours.
Hopefully,
already.
Nobody gets bored in the first 30 minutes. Like this guy's a jackleg. Like,
no. I have people that watch it all the way. But yeah, no, we'll get back out there. We'll start getting some of the new content that's going to be coming out. I'll start letting people know about Dream Season Team that's going to be coming out.
I'm absolutely jacked for this next season. Like the camaraderie and getting on the Dream Season team. I mean, we're just going to rip the Band-Aid wide off.
It's going to be intense this year. We've all got big, good deer coming in. And, I mean, Dalton he said he had a deer that it's probably going to be one of the biggest deer he's ever seen.
Yeah, I think between last year's MRI and everybody's found a decent shed off one side at least, or we've got visual like just nubs and velvet. I think everybody's going to have sheds, a deer.
But I have had pictures of a giant that was there last year. At least one of the ones.
I think everybody's got like one deer that's going to be like, all right, boys, like engage, go mode.
Well, I appreciate y'all. Check in for the next episode. We could talk all day, I'm sure, but we'll let you guys get back to your daily lives, and we'll be posting this episode tomorrow sometime, and then you should be able to watch it anytime. But I appreciate y'all, and as always, stay awesome.